This is Triangle to Win, a gaming podcast with a focus on all things PlayStation and RPGs. A veritable match made in heaven, this combo has given us historic games such as Final Fantasy VII and my personal favorite, Kingdom Hearts, which fans may notice is what the title of the show is referencing. But without further ado, I am your host, Karlobster, and it's time to press Triangle to Win. Hello. Welcome to the very first episode of Triangle to Win, a gaming podcast hosted by me, Karlobster. And whoa, I am very out of my depth here. This is my very first podcast, very first episode. Not quite sure how it's done, but I guess all I really need to do is yap about things that I like for example, PlayStation and RPGs, as said in the beginning of this video. Yeah? But hello. It is I, Karlobster, and what is Triangle to Win, and why is it called Triangle to Win? And honestly, I was having a hard time trying to think of what to call this podcast at all. All I really wanted to do was make a gaming podcast, but then when it came to actually naming what the hell this is going to be, I was like, oh, damn, how do I think of something that's very related to, the topics that I want to talk about? For example, the main topic I really want this podcast to be about is PlayStation, but I also wanted to have it a little bit more focus on stuff like RPGs and the type of games that I really like. And I was thinking of what is something that is kind of like a cross between a PlayStation game that's an RPG, and if you have experience in RPGs, you'd probably understand the reference. And if it's not, and it's okay, it's fine. But I was thinking, and I thought to myself, what better way to start? What better game to think about than my most favorite game ever, which is Kingdom Hearts, my most favorite franchise ever in anything in entertainment. And maybe that's probably the main thing that you need to know about me. My name's Karlobster, by the way. Hello. Is that Kingdom Hearts is definitely my most favorite game franchise ever, even in movies or TV or games, in any type of entertainment. It's definitely my favorite. And so I was thinking, what is something in Kingdom Hearts that I can use that would sound pretty cool, would be a cool reference if you're into it, and if you're not, it still has that sort of PlayStation flavor to it. And then I thought about, the PlayStation buttons, the square, the triangle, and the circle, and the X. And I was like, there's something very specific to Kingdom Hearts that RPG fans may know, or Kingdom Hearts fans may know, definitely. And it's the triangle button. And the reason is, there is this whole concept with Kingdom Hearts where the triangle is basically the win button in many fights. So just a little explanation, if you don't know about Kingdom Hearts, is that Kingdom Hearts is an action RPG made by Square Enix. I think it was released in some time around 2000 something. Actually, let me look that up. Kingdom Hearts release date, I think it was 2002. It says here, March 28, 2002. Damn, it's been so long since the release of Kingdom Hearts. And the triangle button is basically a context-sensitive kind of button that only shows up when there is a certain animation or certain big attack that you can do on enemies. So you're going around, it's an action RPG, so you're going around, you're pressing X to attack the enemies, you got your combos, and you get your typical 1, 2, 3 combo, pressing X, and then it's still kind of like a menu-based system in the same way that, for example, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth and Remake is, where you got the attack button, the magic button, the items button, and then maybe the summon button at the bottom. And so you basically just go through these options, press attack, then you press down to go to magic, then you use magic. You can use cure, fire, wind, or blizzard, whatever have you. And so as you can imagine, you're just using the face buttons, which are the directional buttons, and then you're just pressing X for the option that you want to press. However, For example, if an enemy is close to dying, there is a moment where you can press triangle to win. So for example, a normal enemy, if you press triangle at the correct moment, so there's going to be a big flashing triangle that shows up on screen, and it basically says press. And the graphic for it is very similar to the logo that I made. It's basically the triangle button of the PlayStation controller. I guess back then was a PlayStation 2 controller, which still had the green coloring, which unfortunately the PS5 does not have the green coloring anymore. It's just black and white, monochromatic, which I absolutely despise, and I'm very disappointed for. But, minimalism became cool, but I think we should bring color back into controllers, bring color back into UI. I know the iPhone, the newest iOS update is bringing color back into the UI. But anyway, when an enemy is already low in health and there is a context-sensitive action that you can do, the big triangle button flashes in front of the screen and with text below it that says press with an exclamation point. And so you press it. And this often leads to a big animation that Sora does against the enemy that usually is very cool. And sometimes it can turn into QTE events where you just press triangle again and again. Then Sora does something really, really cool. Like he jumps all around. He does slashes, does big magic and stuff. Or like a big cutscene happens between Sora and the enemy. And it becomes a whole thing. It becomes very cinematic. So triangle button in Kingdom Hearts is definitely a win button. Now, this isn't the case in all Kingdom Hearts games. It was the case in Kingdom Hearts, specifically Kingdom Hearts 2, where it became a very prominent feature of the gameplay. Because Kingdom Hearts 2, it definitely increased the action cinematic aspect of Kingdom Hearts by a lot compared to Kingdom Hearts 1. And so when you press triangle in Kingdom Hearts 2, that's when all the cool stuff happens. And unfortunately, a lot of people kind of did not like this aspect of Kingdom Hearts 2 because, the gameplay was so good. You're doing your combos, you're chaining different combos and stuff. You're learning the fight. But then for the last maybe 10, 20% HP of the enemy, all you really need to do is press triangle to win. And to some people, that's not as engaging, and I understand why. But to some of us, I just really like that the last attack you do on an enemy can be very cinematic as compared to, just doing a random slash which kills the enemy or stuff like that. But this basically means that the enemy is basically just 0 to 80% of its HP. That's the whole fight. And then the last 20% is just a triangle to win. So there it is. Triangle to win. It makes sense. And also, Kingdom Hearts, though these days it's not really a PlayStation exclusive, it's not really something that is tied to PlayStation, not like it was before, but still, it is very iconic to PlayStation's identity. And I think that it might have although it's going to have its presence now ever since Square Enix told people that, oh no, we have a new multi-platform initiative, I think its main home is still going to be on PlayStation. But enough of that, enough of the title. Basically, triangle to win. Hello. I hope it sticks. I don't know. It's been hard to think about what kind of segue, what kind of hook I can make. I was writing the hook to this, and I can't really think of anything except just say, hey, it's time to press triangle to win, which doesn't make sense, but whatever. We'll roll with it. If I think of something better down the line, will I change the title of this podcast? Probably not. But hello. Welcome to the very first episode of the Triangle to Win podcast, hosted by me, Karlobster. And you may have noticed I don't have a co-host, which is honestly okay. I'm okay with it. I'm still looking for a co-host. If any of you are interested, or any of you are interested in PlayStation and RPGs in general, and want to hyper focus on that. But for now, I figured, you know what? Let me just do this solo. Let's try it solo. I really didn't think that you could do a podcast solo until I saw a few podcasts here and there that was hosted by just one person. A lot of the solo podcasts actually are the more scripted types. They have maybe they have a story to tell, like a horror story or a crime, kind of like a crime documentary style type of podcast. But I didn't really want to do those scripted types of podcasts for a solo podcast. I really wanted it to be more, not really conversational, but just more free flowing, so to speak, where I just talk and I yap and yap and yap. Then there are a lot of the podcasts that I found that are solo podcasts are also very, very short ones that literally just last like 10 minutes. Some podcasts are also 5 minutes. And honestly, I don't even think those are podcasts. I don't know. I don't really know what specifically counts as a podcast. All I know is that the podcasts that I do listen to are very long, maybe 3 to 4 hours long. And I usually listen to them on my drive to work, which is basically, if you combine it for the whole day, that's like 1.5 hours going to work, then 1.5 hours going back from work. So that's usually just one episode of a podcast. And that's kind of the thing I want to do for for Triangle to Win. And I don't really want to put a cap on the length of these episodes. All I really wanted to do is whenever I do an episode, I just want to keep talking until there's nothing else left to talk about. And as I said earlier, I'm very new to podcasting. I really don't know how things are done. I'm still in the process of setting everything up, like the Patreon and the YouTube channels, the Twitters, and all of that. And I really am just going to figure this out on my own as we go along. And I hope you're okay with that, you listener that are listening right now. I don't even know how you're going to find this YouTube channel, this podcast in general. I know some of you out there who are listening are probably already viewers or chatters on my Karlobster streams, which I do regularly. I mean, these days, not too regularly, semi-regularly, but I think I'm going to ramp that up because I started this now. But I do stream over on twitch.tv/Karlobster. And I really just play any game that I feel like playing. These days, I've been playing Slitterhead. I can probably talk about that, but maybe not in the first episode. Maybe in the second one, I can talk more about the games that I'm playing every week. I do play a lot of games, but my definite thing that I really love playing mostly are JRPGs. Although here and there, I've been getting into other types of games like Marvel Rivals, which I was not expecting to get into. Was not expecting to be super into because I'm not really that much into live service and shooters and competitive shooters. But for some reason, that game has its hooks on me. Insane game. But let's move on to, I guess, the first part of this podcast, which is who the hell even am I? Who am I that is talking to you right now? And once again, my name is Karlobster, and I guess I can give you a little background about me as a content creator and my, I guess, background in video games and content creation and what started my interest in stuff like RPGs and just gaming in general. So first off, I've been in the content creation space probably for around 16 years now, 16 to 17 years. Now, I haven't been doing content creation for all of those 16 years, but I've mostly been doing it on and off because, college, school, work, so many things. And it's not like I've actually had a long stint of it where I can just do this for like full time. And it didn't really start as streaming, but these days it's mostly what I do, streaming. And now I'm doing this podcast thing. I've always wanted to do this podcast, but 16 years ago I started off on YouTube. I started on YouTube. Actually, we can go even earlier than that, where I started making short films when I was a student in high school. And it really all started when my dad would give me his video camera, like a video cam. It's not even like an SLR or a digicam. It's one of those really big video cams with a flip out screen, and they record in like 30 FPS. And I think the first one even that I had even recorded on like a cassette tape or something like that. Probably a cassette tape. It's either that was either a cassette tape, or was it a hard drive? I'm not quite sure. But what I did was basically it recorded on some sort of storage, which was really big. And then what we do is connect this video cam to an external device where it can save that video on a VHS of all things. So that was my very first exposure to taking videos of things. And honestly, I just take videos of wherever we went to, wherever tourist destination we went to, or just at home. If it was my birthday or my mother's birthday, my dad's birthday, whoever, I just take that video camera out and just, shoot. And didn't really do anything cinematic or something like that. I was just a kid taking videos of people. And then after that, I think it was in high school. Yeah, probably around high school, where I got into something called, I guess it's basically like high school journalism. And I was a sports writer, a news writer, a sports writer, and a features writer. But also, there was a time where I fashioned myself to be what do you call that thing again? It's also part of journalism where you take pictures. I kind of forgot what it's called specifically. But yeah, there was a time where I also did that. So I also dabbled in photography. And what we basically do is we just take pictures of, so there's a theme. There's like a contest like every year through different levels. There's like a local level, a division level, a regional level, and then a national level. And if you win the lower ones, you can possibly get to the national level and compete with, the whole country. And in terms of photography, I didn't really get far in the photography side of things. But what they did was basically give us a theme during the day. For example, the theme is, I don't know. The theme is wildlife conservation. And then we'd have a camera, and we need to go around the grounds. Usually it's just a school, and we need to take pictures of things. And then we take a few pictures, maybe 5 to 6 pictures. And then we take like a big cartolina, a big piece of paper. I don't know what it's called. Cartolina, manila paper, something like that. Then we'd have to paste the pictures on this big sheet of paper. We'd have to lay out how it looks. It needs to look good, right? Then below it, we need to put a caption for these pictures. And that's how they'll judge it. So it's not just about the picture itself, if it's good, but also the caption that goes with it. So it basically imitates what happens when you put a picture of something in a newspaper, which has a caption underneath. And that's how they kind of judge it. And that's the journalism side of things, right? So that's how I started with mostly videography and photography. And then essentially the internet came around and YouTube came around, and people were excited to be posting stuff on YouTube. It started off mainly as cat videos and Charlie bit my finger, right? But it was during that time that there was the rise of these content creators like Freddie W, Corridor Digital. I guess Corridor Digital still is a thing these days. Aside from that, Zach King, Final Cut King, Zach King, the guy from Vine fame. I think it was Vine. Yeah, the guy who does magic and stuff, VFX and everything like that. So basically what I'm saying is I started out as a VFX channel, as Karlobster. I think I had a different name back then. Yeah, a VFX channel. And my most popular video got, how many views did it get? I think it got like 200,000 views or something like that, which was pretty big back then, back in the day. Now it's not too big. That's a pretty small number these days. But back then, it got around 200,000 views, and it was basically probably a 15 second clip or 20-second clip of me with fire in my hands, which was inspired by Freddie W's video where they also had fire on their hands. And that became really popular because that was, for all intents and purposes, a very difficult effect to do, especially way back when we were just doing this on our laptops, on our, we didn't even build PCs. I mean, there are people that built PCs back then, but at least in my circle, that was really a very foreign concept. And at least the people who watched me, we just had like pre-built. I think my pre-built back then was like a Compaq computer. Like literally that's the brand, Compaq. Compaq. And then I also had a Vaio laptop. And that's where I edited the video on my Vaio laptop. Vaio, which was Sony back then. Wow, that's very topical to this podcast. So I did that. And what I basically did is I booted up After Effects and I downloaded some fire videos with transparency, and I just overlaid it over my hand, and I tracked it on my hand, and then I kind of warped the fire so that it looks like it's coming out of my hand. And that became very popular, and I was like, damn, I'm gonna be a YouTube star because of this. I'm gonna become rich. I'm gonna become the next best thing in VFX, right? And that's when I started doing tutorials. I did a tutorial for that video, and that gained a lot of views as well. So many views and so many things. I did a Fire Hands version 2, which had me not using stock footage of fire, but instead actually doing a fire physics simulation on my hand as well. And that was very difficult to do. And I promised my viewers back then that I was going to be making a tutorial. But then many, many years later, I was still getting comments on that video saying, when is the damn tutorial for this? Where is it? When are you going to show the tutorial? And I never did the tutorial for that because that was hell to do. That was already hell to do on its own. And it was going to be hell to make a tutorial of it too. That's insane talk. Insane. And so that was a thing. And I remember I did a bunch of VFX videos. I made a zombie video. I also had this thing where if I wipe my hand over my face, and as I wipe my hand over my face, some shades show up, right? Some shades, like glasses show up on my face. I'm like, whoa. That video actually gained the attention of Zach King. Zach King commented on the video and said, yes, you got it. Because I was just basically trying to recreate a video that Zach King made, where he also did he wiped his hand over his face as well, and then shades show up, and then I did it myself, and then he commented on it, and then, yeah, that's it. That's how you did it. That's how you do it. And speaking of that, whenever I think of Zach King, I always remember the time when Zach King was still small, before he became, he was able to join something called YouTube Next, which is this kind of project by YouTube before, where they take in some content creators on YouTube, and I don't really know what they do, but I guess they support them so that they become better YouTubers or something like that. And I think he became part of that YouTube Next or something. But before that, he was just a YouTuber just like anyone else. And then he messaged me because there were DMs on YouTube. There was an inbox on YouTube way back when. And he did the thing where he was DMing people and telling people, hey, I'm on YouTube. I do these videos. It'll be cool if you could check it out and subscribe and give it a thumbs up or something. And that's when I first discovered him. And the video that he made was a Harry Potter video where they were basically flinging magic from their wands at each other. And that's also one of the big inspirations for me when I started my VFX channel and my YouTube channel way back when. So I made so many videos on my VFX channel. I made a Game of Thrones video. I made a Chuck video. I made, what else did I make? Last of Us video. And what's funny is that way back when, what people would do is like, if you get like 300 subscribers, you already make a video that says, plans for the channel. Here are my plans for the channel. And me being my very, very young and naive self, I also had the gall to be like, in celebration of my 300 subscribers, I will give out a $10 Steam card to whoever comments under this post and follow and subscribe to me and comments under this post and gives it a like or something like that. I did that, and I was able to give someone a $10 Steam card because of it. After waiting for like 2 weeks, I got them the Steam card, which is great. DM'd them over YouTube and did all of that. And well, I also did an Angry Birds video. I borrowed like an Angry Birds plushie and then basically moved it around with my hand and then kind of rotoscoped it out. So it looked like it was flying. It looked like I was flying. And yeah, that was a fun time, but essentially I gave up on that because it became very, very difficult to do. I didn't have actors to play characters for me. Didn't really have time just in general. And this was the time when gaming Let's Plays showed up on YouTube. PewDiePie, Cryotic, rest in peace. Actually, no, just rest. Cryotic, and who else? Who else was big back in the day? Tobuscus. You know? I guess these days you got stuff like Markiplier. And they basically did YouTube Let's Plays, which are very, very long form videos of them just playing horror games and stuff like that. And I was like, making VFX films is very, very tiring. It requires me to go outside, have a camera, have actors, make a script, and then after shooting it under the hot sun, I go back to my PC and edit these videos for God knows how many, many hours, hundreds of hours. Why not just play a video game and upload it to YouTube and then get money and get rich because of that, right? So I made a new channel. I think it was called Karlobster Gaming or something like that, which is what people did back in the day. They had their main channel, which was, for example, a VFX channel. Then they had a gaming channel and stuff. And then they also have a music channel. And I had a gaming channel. And my very first game that I played on that channel was Xenoblade Chronicles 1 on the Wii. Yes, it's on the Wii. And I was having a hard time with my setup there because I had a capture card and everything. But I really didn't know how best to shoot it. How best to approach making a Let's Play. Like, what do these Let's Players do? Do they really just play the game and then they just cut out the interesting parts and do that? Do they actually play it while recording, or do they do a voiceover after the fact? Well, they just record the game first, and then after they watch their game recording, and then they just voice over it. So I did a few trials of it. First one was me just playing the game and recording the voice at the same time. Basically live streaming, but offline. And the biggest hurdle that I realized is that, damn, how do you talk? How do you talk anyway? How do you keep talking over a game? And Xenoblade Chronicles was a very, very long game. It's going to be a 100-hour runtime. And you're supposed to talk throughout those 100 hours? 100 hours? What? That's insane. How? So I was playing this game and I had lulls I'd say stuff like, oh yeah, that's cool. Oh, that's a slash. Wow. Yeah. And then in the middle, I'd be like, what else do I say? How? I didn't really have experience doing this, and I didn't really speak English all that much. English really isn't my first language. The only time I even use English is in like school reports, school presentations. That's literally the only time I get to speak English. So my English was also more performative in a sense as compared to something that's just casual where you're just talking. And so I had a hard time doing those Let's Plays, and I was like, you know what, let's go back and play this beginning 3 hours again, but I'm just going to play the game normally, and then I'm going to record something on top of it. And then the biggest problem with that is that, bruh, how? Again, how? So I'm going to be playing this game for 3 hours, and then I'm going to go back to it and watch this whole 3 hours of gameplay and think about things to say again? And this, in turn, made it a longer process because I'd record for let's say I record for 10 seconds. Oh, this is a cool strategy I'm going to do. I'm going to use this attack followed by this magic attack, and it's going to have this amount of damage. And then I'd stop recording. And then I'd watch the next 10 seconds like, what's happening in these next 10 seconds? Oh, it looks like I dodged there and I did this attack. Okay, then go back 10 seconds and start recording, and I just say things. Then I'm going to dodge here, and then I'm going to use this magic attack on him, and we're going to win. We're going to win. That's definitely going to win. And it took so long that I was like, maybe let's not do it like that. And eventually I gave up because how? That's impossible. But then came streaming. Where it's the best of both worlds. Where you only play the game once. You only talk once. And that video of you playing is saved as a VOD. So you don't even need to upload a new video or edit. It's just there. It's just the best of both worlds. And that's when I started streaming on Twitch. I think my very first game was Breath of the Wild, which I played 40 hours of on stream, actually. And I enjoyed it, but eventually didn't even finish it, and eventually don't really like it. I don't really like Breath of the Wild. Don't really like Zelda in general. I really wasn't a Nintendo kid growing up. And I guess and that's basically how I started streaming. And I just kept streaming until I got good at it, until I got good at speaking. And streaming in general was this way for me to improve my English speaking. Speaking in English. And I think I got better through the years. And what you're hearing right now is after many, many years of streaming. And then in the past 5 years, I got into VTubing. And if you didn't know what VTubing is when a streamer uses a virtual avatar, which is usually in the style of anime, but can be many different styles depending on who you are, but it's very popularized by the anime kind of community. And I've been doing that, then that and streaming, VTubing and streaming and content creation, aside from my normal job and stuff. And here we are, starting a podcast because I just wanted I just really wanted an outlet where I can talk about games, like just games, the game industry, and a place maybe where I can review games and be more mindful and thoughtful about the games that I play. But yeah, that's my whole content creation journey. But I guess the next topic we can talk about is PlayStation. Why PlayStation of all things? Why am I so into PlayStation? Why am I so into RPGs, JRPGs specifically? And my gaming journey basically started with a Sega Genesis. It was a Christmas day, and my mom came to her room where I was sleeping in and gave me a gift on a Christmas morning. And it was a box that when I opened was a Sega Genesis that came with the games, the Jungle Book, came with comics, came with a racing game that I forgot the title of, and came with Sonic as well. Yeah, a Sonic game. I forgot what it was. But it's one of those 2D side-scrolling Sonic games. not the 3D ones. I don't know if the 3D ones existed then. Probably not. Yeah, just the 2D ones. And I played the hell out of Jungle Book. I played the hell out of comics. And I was like, video games are the absolute best thing in the world. But before that, I dabbled in games mostly with my parents' family computer, Famicom. I was playing. I don't even remember the games I played on the Famicom because I was so young. But I played this game where you're like a plane, and then you shoot other planes. It's like dogfighting. That's all I remember from Famicom. I didn't really play anything big or like an RPG or something like that. Didn't really play any of that. So I had a Sega Genesis. There was even like a Batman game on the Sega Genesis, which was really, really cool. And I also had a racing sim. My mom even bought like a racing wheel for that game. And what a great console. What a great console. But then after that, my mom bought me a PlayStation 1. And what's funny back then, here in the Philippines, it's not super common to get a legit PlayStation, like a unmodified PlayStation. So the PlayStations that are sold in the malls here are already those that have been modified, that can play like pirated games, ripped games, or just copied games on a disc. And my mom bought that, and she bought the bundle that came with 70 PlayStation 1 games. How many PlayStation 1 games are there in general? Let me just check right now. PlayStation 1 games all. How many? How many PlayStation 1 games are there? There are 1,278 PlayStation 1. Is that real? No. Yeah, 1,207. No, that's very. There's around 4,000. There are differing accounts of how many PlayStation games are there, but it says here 4,221. Yep. And I started my collection with 70 games. I don't know if this is the correct number though. Some say it's around 8,200. Some say it's 7,900, 4,000, but it's in 1,000. And I started my collection with 70. Literally 70 games already ready to go with my PlayStation 1. And I played a bunch of games that interested me. I don't even know the titles anymore. But the very first game that stuck out to me out of all the games that I played was Final Fantasy VIII. And this is why Final Fantasy VIII will always have a special place in my heart, even if it isn't the best Final Fantasy in my mind, even if it isn't even in the top 5 of my most favorite Final Fantasies. Final Fantasy VIII will always be very, very special to me because it's maybe the first game that I played with my mom. We played a demo disc. For Final Fantasy VIII. And then it was basically the first part of the game, Balam Garden, up to the first town where you're chased by a big mecha spider, if I remember correctly. And it had that cool cutscene, the cool CG FMV cutscene in the beginning with the music, with the orchestral music. You got Cypher and Squall fighting, with Cypher able to get a slash in Skull's face and blood coming out. Then you got Renoa in a sea of flowers and a dog, maybe. I don't know. We got Quistis, you got Selfie, you got Irvine, all these cool characters. Dinked. I don't know how to say his name. In full CG glory. Idea, not Eden. Idea. And that was so good immediately off the bat. I was like, whoa, wait, games can look like this? And then I played the game, and it was very chill to play. It was the first PlayStation 1 game that I played where it wasn't like super real-time action gameplay. It was turn-based, of course, right? And most of the beginning parts is just you running around and talking to people. And I was like, whoa, these characters are just here and I can talk to them and they're just chilling. You know? They feel like real people, even if they're like just 10 polygons. And when you talk to them, they have multiple lines of dialogue and there's a story. And what? Games can have stories? Wow. Then I was playing it next to my mom. Then we got to the second part of the game, which is the what's kind of like this raid on a town, and it was a very war-torn. There was a whole military kind of force story going on, and there was a lot of action, there was a lot of drama, and I couldn't believe what I was seeing. That this video game has such a compelling story with equally cool looking characters that look like anime but aren't exactly anime, right? Because, you know, typical Final Fantasy look, at least from long ago, is the Japanese European kind of vibe that was going on. So Final Fantasy VIII was my very first game that opened my eyes to how good video games can be. Then after that, that's when I played Final Fantasy VII. I played Final Fantasy VI. Then I eventually played Final Fantasy IX. Final Fantasy IX being my absolute most favorite Final Fantasy ever. And I've played every single one of them. I played them except for Final Fantasy XI. Played it all. And Final Fantasy IX still on top. Final Fantasy 16, loved my time with it. Incredible, but still FF9 turned out to still be my favorite. Final Fantasy VII Remake and Rebirth is turning out to be incredible, absolutely incredible, but still FF9. I can't wait to play the remake for that when that comes out. Please, Square Enix, show it. Can you please show it now? That's going to be so cool. If it really is like an upgraded Visions of Mana type of remake, it's going to be so nice. But yeah, that started me on my PlayStation journey. That started me on playing games like Metal Gear Solid. And the thing that sealed the deal forever was Kingdom Hearts. My history with Kingdom Hearts is very fun. My mom, it's always my mom in my initial video game stories. My mom just randomly bought me a video game magazine. She doesn't even remember this, I'm pretty sure. She bought me a video game magazine. And then in that magazine was Kingdom Hearts in it. I saw Kingdom Hearts. There was also Shadow Hearts. But I looked at it and I'm like, what? Final Fantasy and Disney together? And look at this color palette. The color palette is very colorful. It looked very whimsical. You got Donald and Goofy and this Final Fantasy-ass looking character in the middle. Sora. A Keyblade. You're going through Disney worlds and locking them. They're heartless. Action, RPG, gameplay. Hell yes. And then we were at the mall and my mom bought it and then I played it. It also had this very sexy cover art as well. The very dark cover art with the characters perched upon a rock with the Kingdom Hearts moon in the background. Ooh! Still to this day, one of the best PlayStation 2, best like video game cover arts on a disc case ever. And that's basically what sealed the deal for me for Kingdom Hearts. And then since then, I've been a very big fan of PlayStation. There's always been a PlayStation console wherever I live. I always buy the whatever PlayStation console comes out. PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2. Then PlayStation 3 was the first one where, and probably the only one where I really, aside from the PlayStation 5 because of the supply issues, PlayStation 3 was the first one and only one where I really couldn't get it like on release because it was so expensive. $600 when I was just a college student. I was in college, didn't really have a lot of money, and it's asking me for freaking 30K pesos, 30,000. No, it's $600 in the US, but I think here in the Philippines it was like $60,000. 60,000 pesos or 50,000 pesos. And 50,000 pesos for a college student that just had his own allowance, wasn't really working. That's too insane. Oh, it's too much. So couldn't really buy it until maybe a year after, but which is great, but because I was still able to play stuff like Metal Gear Solid 4. That was my first PlayStation 3 game, and my second PlayStation 3 game was actually Valkyria Chronicles, which was this really nice Japanese SRPG that at the time kind of propelled the SRPG, tactical RPG genre forward by like 10 years. But then they dropped the ball and Valkyria Chronicles is now gone and you don't really hear about it. But I wish they handled Valkyria Chronicles better. I wish they made a Valkyria Chronicles 2 on PlayStation 4, PlayStation 3, and didn't go PSP. Though I do love my PSP, but you know what? Valkyria Chronicles should have stayed big boy console on a big boy console. But yeah, that is me and my history with PlayStation. And now I am very much enjoying my PlayStation 5. I play all of my games on a PlayStation 5 as much as I can, unless they're PC games, PC specific games. But if it's multi-platform, it's available on PS5. No matter what it is, I'll play it on PS5. Definitely. So I'm a very big fan of PlayStation and RPGs. Let's see. The other RPGs I really like aside from Final Fantasy and Kingdom Hearts, Art Tanelico. Absolutely love that game. That franchise. The one with the songbird kind of thing going on, which had a lot of innuendo, actually. We can talk about that in the future next time. Maybe I can replay it and we can talk about it more in depth again. I've definitely forgotten a lot of plot points and all the stuff about that game, those games, but I remember there was a lot of innuendo. Art Tanelico, love it. Other games I really like, Persona. Shin Megami Tensei Persona 3 is my absolute favorite. Of course, Nier, Replicant, Automata. I was able to play Nier Gestalt when it first released on PlayStation 3, fortunately. And what else? What other RPG franchises do I really like aside from that? Off the top of my head, Legend of Dragoon, Legend of Legaia on the PlayStation 1, Chrono Cross, again on PlayStation 1, and Valkyrie Profile, all these cool games that were on the PlayStation 1. I still remember very, very fondly. Then there are other ones like Star Ocean, Star Ocean and Dot Hack GU. What else is there? Suikoden, Grandia, Xenogear, Xenoblade, Xenosaga, Dragon Quest, Eternal Sonata, The World Ends With You, and so many more. There's a lot. I'm looking at a list right now just to remember all the RPGs that I really, really like. But currently I'm playing through Metaphor ReFantazio, and that's been taking me so long, but I hope I can finally finish that game soon. But that is, I think, all I can talk about with regards to me as your host for Triangle to Win. And here in Triangle to Win, the structure is basically going to be this, where we do a little intro, and then we start off with some gaming news, PlayStation and RPG centric as much as we can. There's probably not going to be a lot of RPG centric news, depending on how much there is in general in terms of the industry. But there's definitely going to be a lot of PlayStation news. And I'm also going to be talking about news of things that I'm just generally interested in, even if they're not typically super PlayStation related. If they're just, gaming industry related, games related, then that's something I can talk about too during the gaming news segment. And for our very first episode, because it's January, January is a time when we reflect on what happened in 2024 and the year before. So I'm just going to be doing a little Game of the Year 2024 list with some honorable mentions, and I'm just going to be talking about the games that I really liked in 2024, aside from the news. But for other episodes upcoming, I kind of want to talk about mostly the games that I'm playing, talk in depth about a specific game that I'm playing from the last week and stuff like that as well. And hopefully in the future, I can also get some guests and get some cool topics going on here, depending on what I feel like. But it's basically the main thing that's going to happen is the news. That's what we're going to be talking about every day, every bi-weekly, every other week on this podcast for PlayStation and RPGs. So, without further ado, let's move on to the news. So for the news, we actually have a lot of different topics today. A lot of different, we got a big spread of different news articles. Mostly I'm going to take from Push Square and Video Game Chronicles. And I'm still trying to get used to all this whole process, but actually I need to timestamp this. Let me timestamp it. There we go. Oops. Timestamp. There we go. I'll try to make, as we go along this podcast, we can make like systems and we can restructure how this podcast will go. Since it's my very, very first podcast and very first episode, so I'm not quite sure how it'll go. But we're just going to talk about whatever news we can find that is related to PlayStation and any of my interests. And for the first one is this article by Video Games Chronicle regarding Shadow of the Colossus. So with a recent reveal of Fumito Uedo's new project called Project Robot, which was shown at the Game Awards 2024, it seems more relevant than ever to go back and revisit Team Ico's previous games, my favorite being The Last Guardian. And so, the Team Ico games are Ico, which was released in, when was Ico released? Ico release date. It was released on the PlayStation 3 on September 24, 2001. Then Shadow of the Colossus was released on... Ico was PlayStation 2. Then Shadow of Colossus, PlayStation 2 in 2005. And then The Last Guardian was on PlayStation 3. And The Last Guardian was so hyped up and took so long to release. It released in 2011. Oh no! It was revealed. The Last Guardian was released in revealed in E3 2009 with a planned release date in 2011, but came out on December 6, 2016. So there is a very big gap between Shadow of the Colossus and The Last Guardian. And though I do have to say, pound for pound, that my most favorite of the three games is definitely The Last Guardian. I cried to The Last Guardian. And I don't know what it was about Shadow of the Colossus, but for some reason, Shadow of the Colossus was a bit too difficult for me. I couldn't wrap my head around all the mechanics needed to beat these bosses. And it became quite a bit frustrating to me. So I didn't actually finish it. I do want to revisit it in the future sometime, especially the remaster. But we'll have to see whenever I have time for it. In fact, I feel like if Project Robot is going to show up in the future, I think a good move might be to go ahead and just play the Fumito Ueda games, the Team Ico games, just one after the other. Ico, Shadow of the Colossus, then Last Guardian, and then leading up to Project Robot, whenever that's going to release, right? However, this news comes in the way of the middle child of the bunch, Shadow of the Colossus, Team Ico's larger-than-life action game, which had you climb towering giants and stabbing them over and over until they drop. But apparently a movie has been in the works for 10 years now, and now seems to be showing signs of life. So the director attached to a Shadow of Colossus movie adaptation for over a decade has said the project could still see the light of day. So the director Andres Muschietti from IT The Flash and Mama was confirmed to be helming it in 2014, and he said to an Argentina radio station that the film has been in development for 10 years, and now the possibility of making it opens up. He claims that it isn't an abandoned project by any means, and he says that I love that film, and there's a script that I like a lot. However, he acknowledged that securing his desired budget for the project remained an obstacle. So it looks like there's a lot of factors that are going wrong or are not being fulfilled within a good amount of time to make Shadow of the Colossus movie a reality. He said that Shadow of the Colossus is a cult game, but to make a good film, there is a studio that puts in numbers and says how much it is worth to give the director, $200, $150, or $100 million. There are different versions of the film, and obviously I want them to give me $200 million. But this is another factor to take into account. So, Shadow Colossus, hopefully getting a film. I don't know. I don't really know what to feel about this. I don't know how they're actually going to do it. This, given the budget that they're tossing around for this, it seems like it's going to be a full-on live action Shadow of the Colossus movie as compared to a, more animated, more, Disney type animation or anime style movie. And I don't really know what to expect given that he made the Flash movie. Wait, did he really make the Flash, like the new The Flash? The Flash director. Yes, he made the Flash movie, the newest one, which has the whole multiverse thing going on, which I did enjoy, but the biggest thing that was panned for that movie was its CG, and I definitely can see the CG being bad. And, the CG being bad is, could be a factor, could be because of many, many factors, budget, time, DC being insane with, deadlines and stuff like that. So it couldn't mostly be the director's fault for whatever went wrong with The Flash. But it's interesting. I don't really know what to feel about him helming the Shadow of the Colossus movie. But I think a Shadow of the Colossus movie would be pretty cool. Honestly, it would be a big spectacle if done right. But I also don't want it to be rushed and have not enough budget where it looks like The Flash. God, I remember those babies in The Flash. They were so terrible to look at. That whole scene was so terrible. And also, even the scenes where they were in like the time warp thingy, where he went back in time and he can see all the different percolations of events and characters all around him, that had super bad CG. And that is, probably a big logistics problem, big time and budget problem. So hopefully Shadow of the Colossus can get the room that it needs to breathe. And it looks like this whole PlayStation thing, this whole PlayStation IP thing turning into movies is one of PlayStation's biggest things that they're spearheading these days, considering that they really want their IP to be more multimedia, I guess, so to speak. Given that Sony is a really, really big company. I just learned this, that Sony is like top Japanese companies. I just learned this recently, but Sony is literally top 3? 1, 2, it's currently at least top 9 in terms of how big the company is. The first one is Toyota, Mitsubishi, Honda, Itochu, Nippon Telegraph and Telephone, then Mitsui Japan Post Holdings, Hitachi, and then number 9 is Sony. So they're really one of the top 10 companies, biggest companies in Japan. And they're more than just PlayStation. Although PlayStation is like its biggest division and its biggest moneymaker as compared to something like Microsoft, where Xbox isn't really its biggest moneymaker. PlayStation is, at its very core, a big multimedia company. It has its toes dipped in movies. It has its toes dipped in anime, especially now with its acquisition of a Kadokawa. And it has its toes dipped in many things, even books now, and manga, and anime, and all of this stuff. And it's cool to see that they're really pushing for more of these IP, PlayStation game IP, and turning them into different things like movies and possibly TV shows. For example, like that secret level Amazon Prime TV show that they did. And I think this is a prime area for growth, I think, with their PlayStation IP to make money off it. But it definitely needs to be, they definitely need to choose the right people. Because otherwise, it's just going to be half-baked. I really admire, for example, Hideo Kojima for choosing A24, for example, as the people that'll make his movie of, what was it, Death Stranding? I think they're making the Death Stranding movie, A24. A24 is this movie. They basically publish movies and I guess fund movies that have very kooky and very unique premises that don't usually get greenlit by big Hollywood production companies. So they made stuff like Midsummer. What was the Midsummer prequel or like the one that preceded it? I kind of forgot what it's called. What was the Midsummer? A24 movies. Yeah, they made stuff like Lady Bird, Moonlight, Hereditary. That's what I was thinking about. Hereditary is kind of like it preceded Midsummer. They made stuff like Ex Machina, The Witch, which is one of my favorite horror movies. Uncut Gems for Adam Sandler. With Adam Sandler, Green Room. The Lighthouse, right? These are movies that aren't your typical big Hollywood blockbusters and stuff like that, and are pretty much very indie in a way in terms of their feel and their stylings. And so I really admired that from Hideo Kojima to choose A24. Now, the other PlayStation movies, though, I don't know if they'll do the same. They'll probably go with more. For example, for this project, Shadow Colossus, they went with a Flash director, right? And hopefully that pans out for them. I haven't even really watched, Uncharted as well. The only other PlayStation Productions movie that I watched probably is the Gran Turismo movie, which was basically about this thing that Nissan did long ago, where they had sim racers, Gran Turismo sim racers, fight against each other. And of course, it's racing, Gran Turismo, the game. And then whoever came out on top they're going to pit in professional racing, like actual professional racing, give them a license to actually race in real racing events. And the main character in that was able to race in the Le Mans race, which is like a 24-hour race or something. And they were able to get to the podium for that thing. And that was actually very compelling. When I first saw the trailer for the Gran Turismo movie, I didn't really think much about it. I was like, well, this kind of feels stupid, huh? You're just making a movie about Gran Turismo? I don't know if that's good. But then apparently it was more of a kind of a biopic, or like it's like this is a real event that actually happened. These are real events. This is a retelling of a real event, and turned out really good. So hopefully this pans out. I really want to see what happens in a Shadow of the Colossus movie. I think it would be pretty cool. The visual spectacle will definitely be very, very nice to see. So we'll see. Hopefully he gets his $200 million budget. Okay. Then for the next piece of news, let me put a marker. Next piece of news is this. From Video Games Chronicle, since we're talking about movies, 2 more live-action films based on PlayStation games have been announced. And this is Helldivers and Horizon Zero Dawn. During the recently concluded CES Consumer Electronics Show, PlayStation Productions revealed 2 new movie projects on the horizon, no pun intended. The first one being, to no one's surprise, a movie adaptation of Herman Hulst and Guerrilla Games' baby, Horizon, which basically has been getting everything. A new game, a new MMO, a new Monster Hunter type game, a movie, and now a movie as well. And it's being produced in collaboration with Columbia Pictures. It also had a Lego version that was, funny enough, available on the Switch. And the other project is a movie adaptation of Helldivers 2, the extremely popular live service hit from PlayStation and Arrowhead, which was seemingly directly inspired by stuff like Starship Troopers. And so, PlayStation Productions' Azad Kizilbash said on stage, "I'm excited to announce we are working with Sony Pictures on developing a film adaptation of the amazingly popular PlayStation game Helldivers 2, and also Horizon, which is one of their most exciting IPs." So he says, and it's going to be cool. I think the Helldivers one is going to be cool, especially if they keep like the silly and funny satirical tone to it. The Horizon one, I think it would be nice as well. I mean, concept-wise, Horizon is a really good concept for a video game. A girl with an arrow from a tribe, a post-apocalyptic tribe on Earth, fighting dinosaur robots. That's such a video game concept. It hurts. And it works really well, actually. The issue with Horizon is just that I feel like Horizon has just too many in so little time. When there's so many IPs that a lot of players would want to have to be more expanded more upon, that are, that have a long pedigree of PlayStation, have been with PlayStation for a long time, but suddenly Horizon, who just came around during the PlayStation 4 era, is now getting everything, literally everything. And part of that probably has to do with Herman Hulst being the new CEO of PlayStation, at least one half of the new CEOs of PlayStation. He's sharing it with the other guy, the Japanese guy. I kind of forgot his name. And we're just getting Horizon everything now. So now we have confirmation of the Horizon movie as well. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. There isn't really any more detail about this, aside from just announcing it at CES. But I'm definitely very excited about the Helldiverse 2 movie. Especially, like I said, if they keep the very funny, silly tone to it, and the very gruesome and brutal and tone mixed with the silliness of it. I really want to see that. And just funny to note that, Helldivers 2 inspired by Starship Troopers, and it's now getting its own movie. It's now getting its own everything. So we'll see. We'll see. I really love Helldivers 2. I actually also really love Helldivers 1. Back in the day, the top-down kind of shooter thing going on. That was really fun. So I'm glad to see Helldivers 2 getting more stuff. I think it really deserves it. Helldivers 2 really had a good splash during the Game Awards. And I was so surprised to see it win a lot of things. Not really win a lot of things, but get nominated also for a lot of things. And I think these days it has another resurgence because they announced like a new update to it, like a new Alien. And people, I don't know if people remember, but Helldivers 2 was such a splash when it first released. However, because of a few, what do you call this? A few complications, like them changing like the meta, them changing the weapons and how they're used and how they're utilized, and basically changing how gamers play the game, turned off a lot of people from the game. And aside from that was a whole big scandal regarding the needing to log in to PSN on Steam, as essentially locking out a bunch of countries, including my country, if I wanted to play Helldivers 2 on Steam. Fortunately for me, I didn't buy Helldivers 2 on Steam, but I do have multiple PlayStation Network accounts in different countries for this purpose. If you were here during the PlayStation 3 era, you know to have many different accounts on PSN. So I have something everywhere, from Asia, from US, from Japan, from, I think I have a Russian one maybe. But yeah, this is because, like, if I remember correctly, that was one of the things when I needed to do that to be able to play Demon Souls. If I remember correctly, Demon Souls was only released in Asia and not in the US, and I had to get that on my Asian account or something like that. And also, at least before, during the PlayStation 3 era, the PlayStation Plus offerings were different depending on which region you're from. Though these days, I think it's pretty much equal. There's pretty much equity between the different regions, but who knows? Who knows? Sometimes they aren't. So, yeah, pretty cool. Helldivers 2 getting a movie, and Horizon. The Horizon one is very, very expected. So, now our next article which is the theme of what we're talking about a lot today, is that one of PlayStation's biggest first-party games is getting an anime adaptation. So we're now moving away from all these movies, and we're now talking about anime. And the PlayStation IP that's getting an anime adaptation makes absolute perfect sense. So aside from its movie initiative, PlayStation also announced an anime adaptation of Ghost of Tsushima, the open-world action-adventure game made by Sucker Punch, which follows a samurai during the first Mongol invasion of Japan. The project will be directed by Takanobu Mizuno, who directed the Duel episode from Star Wars Visions, which had a monochromatic style reminiscent of Akira Kurosawa's films, which also was actually a mode in Ghost of Tsushima as well. You can play the game in full black and white, which was a nice alternative way to play that game. I think it was pretty cool. It's also important to note that a Ghost of Tsushima film is also being made and directed by Chad Stahelski from John Wick 4. So, Ghost of Tsushima getting an anime, I think that is basically also a match made in heaven. You know, samurai and anime. Well, there's no other perfect combination that can happen. Now, regarding Ghost of Tsushima, I actually haven't played Ghost of Tsushima just yet, because it's a big open world, sprawling open world type of game that's going to take, 100 hours to play, and it's hard to find 100 hours to play all these big open world games, and especially with the way I play games is that I tend to complete everything. If it's an open world game, I tend to do every side quest, every collectible that I can find, every at least big side quests, and every challenge. You know, these games have like challenges that you can do, and shrines to find, and secrets to find as well, and lore. There's so much in these open world games that I don't really have found time to play Ghost of Tsushima yet. However, my big plan is that right before Ghost of Yotei releases, maybe that's when I'm gonna delve into Ghost of Tsushima, because I saw the Ghost of Yotei trailer and it looked absolutely beautiful. And I think it's a game that's going to be released only on PlayStation 5. So it's going to shed off the PlayStation 4 completely and be Sucker Punch's first PlayStation 5 only game. So I can't wait. I can't wait to play Ghost of Yotei and also get into Ghost of Tsushima right before it. And there's nothing else really much to talk about except for I also haven't watched the Star Wars Visions, a Duel episode, but I checked out like screenshots and stuff of it, and it looks really good. It looks really good. It has that black and white type of style, and like the only colored part was the lightsabers. And that is so cool looking. So, Ghost of Tsushima getting an anime adaptation. Congratulations, I guess. But also, aside from that, it's also getting a live action film, which is also, honestly, a really good combination. Samurai and live action. Oh, of course. In fact, I'd say we don't have enough of those these days. For some reason, when I think of a samurai movie, I think of the Tom Cruise one from long ago. The Tom Cruise samurai movie. I kind of forgot the title. So, there it is. Now on to smaller news, just small news that we can get through. Is this one, again, also from Video Games Chronicle, is, we were talking about black and white. Black PlayStation Portal, DualSense Edge, and Pulse accessories announced. New colorways for PS5 peripherals are on the way with a recently announced Midnight Black collection, featuring, you guessed it, a very sexy and sleek shade of black, not just for its controllers, but even the PlayStation Portal. Now, for those that don't know, PlayStation Portal, absolute smash of a seller in the US, I think. I think PlayStation Portal might be Sony's most popular peripheral for the PlayStation 5 so far. It's been selling like hotcakes, like pancakes. And now, I kind of always wanted one, but for some reason, whenever I look at the PlayStation Portal, all I can think about is my controller that I have, which is a normal white one. And they just split it in the middle. And they put an Android tablet in the middle. And it just has that feeling of being like a patched up mess of a product when I think about it that way. But looking at this right now with a very nice black and blue colorway, ooh, it looks really good. It's really pushing me to buy a PlayStation Portal, which I don't really need. Honestly, I don't really have a use case for the PlayStation Portal, but look at this thing. It looks so good. I already have a Steam Deck, and that's also in black, but it just looks really good. I need to stop looking at it because I'm getting more and more tempted to go ahead and buy a PS Portal, which I shouldn't. So that's it. Black PlayStation Portal, DualSense Edge. DualSense Edge, I don't really feel the need to buy a DualSense Edge. I don't think so. Because I've been playing on my Steam Deck, and the Steam Deck also has paddles at the back, buttons at the back. And I think that's a new thing for controllers these days, is that aside from the normal layout, they add like 2 paddles at the back for you to press. You can map them to any kind of function in a game. And I know I can map them on my Steam Deck, but whenever I try to use them, my brain just doesn't process it. I'm so used to the normal amount of buttons that I keep forgetting to press all these 1, 2, 3, 4 new buttons on the back of a Steam Deck. And so I don't really feel the need to buy a DualSense Edge, because I feel like if I buy a DualSense Edge, I think the DualSense Edge is really expensive compared to the normal controller, that it might just go to waste. It's not like I need to play anything super competitive these days for a DualSense Edge to get a DualSense Edge. The Pulse accessories, not really. They're just headphones, earphones. I don't really need them. I'm fine with my headphones. But damn, they really know what gets gamers going. That black colorway for PlayStation. And it's funny how for many, many years now, the black peripheral, the black piece of tech has been the standard, right? When you buy something, usually it's in a shade of black. And because of PlayStation's recent push for the default model of its product to be white, now for some reason the black controller feels very, very attractive. And I just realized that my PlayStation 4 controller is black. My PlayStation 3 controller is also black. PlayStation 2 controller is also black. PS1 is gray. So now I feel like paying a premium or just buying a new controller just because it's black. It's kind of weird in that way. So that's it for the black PlayStation Portal, DualSense Edge, and everything like that. If you want it, buy it. Me, I'm gonna stop myself, but I really want that PS Portal. Okay. And now our next article is from Sega, from Video Games Chronicle again. But Sega, RGG Studio, the storied studio behind the Yakuza and Like a Dragon franchise, seem to have no shortage of projects as they helm the revival of the Virtua Fighter franchise. In the recent NVIDIA CES presentation, Sega showed an in-engine look at the new Virtua Fighter, but clarified in that same video that what we're looking at is not gameplay, but a scripted vertical slice in the game's engine. This comes on the heels of Sega's renewed initiative to bring back its old IP. Now here on the Video Games Chronicle thing, they showed off around 30 more seconds of the next Virtua Fighter. And this is... I have so much respect for RGG Studio as a studio, because they have so many projects under their belt. Let me just bring them up right now. Ryuga Gotoku Studio. I wonder if they have a Wikipedia page, but I know that they're working on, of course, they're currently working on the Like a Dragon pirate in Hawaii, which features Majima this time around as the main character. What was that? Like a Dragon Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii. Then they're also making Project Century. And they're also making this new Virtua Fighter game. And who knows if they're also making a new Judgment game, Lost Judgment, you know? And it's how many games have they released? So they've been making games since they were turned into Ryuga Gotoku Studio in 2012. They've made 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29. They've worked on 29 projects. Some of these are remasters of old Yakuza games, but they've worked on 29 projects in 12, 13 years. That's a very high rate that's a very high turnover of projects for Ryuga Gotoku Studio. And it's not like these are small games as well, but they're literally the Yakuza games. You know, Yakuza. Oh, they also made Binary Domain, which is one of the best third-person shooters from the PlayStation 3 era that nobody played. But look at this. Yakuza 0, Kiwami, Yakuza 6, Kiwami 2, Fist of the North Star, Lost Paradise, Yakuza 3 Remastered, Judgment, Yakuza 4 5 Remastered, Yakuza Like a Dragon, Super Monkey Ball, Virtua Fighter 5 Ultimate Showdown, Like a Dragon Ishin, Like a Dragon Gaiden, The Man Who Erased His Name, Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, and now Like a Dragon Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii, Virtua Fighter Project Century. They have so much. They make so much games, and it's really respectable the way they make games. And if you're not familiar, is that they're very popular for flipping assets in RGG Studio, but nobody seems to care. Nobody seems to care about the asset flips. If this was another developer, people would be like, oh, lazy. Why? You need to make a new asset every game, or else, you know, you're just leeching. You're just leeching off us. You think we're going to buy your game again if you're going to use the same assets? Ooh, screw you. But for RGG Studio, people really do not care because the games that they make are amazing. Yakuza games, come on. They're all good. They're all fun. And it's not like they're just like 10, 20-hour games as well. They can go up to 100 hours depending on how much you want to play. And their games are chock full of mini games and activities that it's insane how they now are taking up the Virtua Fighter project. And just from the little teaser that they gave us for this, it looks heckin' amazing. It looks very beefy. It's obvious, though, that this isn't like real-time gameplay. But I saw from Maximilian Dude, which is one of my favorite content creators, maybe my absolute favorite content creators, is that I think he's postulating that RGG Studio is going to do something that fighting games have not done, and which is to make blocking look cool. And, you know, even if this is like pre-rendered in-engine cutscene, an in-engine pre-rendered cutscene of a game, this is still kind of like a proof of concept thing going on that you can still glean what philosophies and what things they're trying to emphasize in terms of gameplay, even in these pre-rendered in-engine cutscenes. And yes, he's kind of right that I was looking at this footage and you can see that they made the blocking look cool. And whether that's going to translate to the actual gameplay when it actually finally releases is yet to be seen. But if they can do it, this seems to be a very grounded, this would be a very nice looking grounded fighting game that I'm looking forward to. Yes. And what's funny is that looking at this footage, you can really see that it's the RGG Studio that's making this. The way the cutscenes happen, you know, the little cutscene, the flares happen in the trailer is very RGG Studio with the way the camera moves and stuff like that. While it looks better than any other Yakuza game, it still has the RGG Studio pedigree to it. the RGG Studio footprint. So, Virtua Fighter, looking forward to it. I'm also a big fan of fighting games, so I hope this pans out. I hope it has rollback netcode. And one of the reasons why I'm getting back into fighting games these days is because all these new fighting games have rollback netcode and makes it easy to find games and play other players from different countries with a really nice, mostly seamless and not laggy online experience. So looking forward to this, definitely. Okay. And for our next article, so we're done with that. Here we go. This next article. One of the things that we've all been dreaming of for a very, very long time. PlayStation Classic Studio says it's dreaming about PS3 emulation. As spotted by Reddit, the studio recently updated the roadmap for its Syrup engine, which powers many of the classic games on PlayStation Plus, to include a dreaming about section for researching and prototyping the possibility of a PlayStation 3 emulator package. And so this studio is called Implicit Conversions. And apparently they worked directly with Sony to bring PS1 titles to PS5. And previously its co-founder worked on PS2 emulation for PS4. So this is my first time hearing about this studio, Implicit Conversions. They're not like a PlayStation studio. They're not within the PlayStation Studio fold. But it seems like they're working closely with Sony for its emulation efforts. So for now, that's PlayStation 1 Classics and PlayStation 2 Classics, I think. And one of the things that still has not been done for all these years is PlayStation 3 natively playable on a PlayStation 5 or PlayStation 4. And that's just absolutely crazy talk to me, because PlayStation 3 emulation on PC has been a thing for many, many years now. And while it's not perfect, it's been working on many types of different systems through the years, through varying degrees of success. And it's just a shame that all these PlayStation 3 games have still been stuck on PlayStation 3. And the reason for this is, the reason that people cite all the time is a cell architecture, which the PlayStation 3 used, which is very different from a typical desktop PC, very different from PS4 and PS5 itself, and PS2. They really went ham on designing PS3, that they made a whole new architecture that isn't like universally used by developers and stuff like that, which is why these PlayStation 3 games are just stuck on the PS3. And there's a big challenge on getting these on other platforms. But again, there's been a lot of progress in the PS3 emulation on PC, that it's inconceivable that Sony still does not have a solution to it on their own platforms. So Implicit Conversion, I saw the website that they have the roadmap on, and it's literally just a little blurb on the side of the roadmap that says dreaming about PlayStation 3 emulator package. Possibility of a PlayStation 3 emulator package in their Syrup engine. Now, I don't know if this is a little cheeky thing where they're like, we're actually already working with PlayStation, and we already have prototypes of it, and we're actually have it running, and we're going to release it soon. We're just trying to be a little bit cheeky with our dreaming about section. Hopefully it's that, and not just literally just dreaming about nothing. We don't really have progress on it, and we're just dreaming about it. Hopefully it's not that. I really want PS3 emulation on my PS5. And because I do have a PlayStation 3 here with me, my first PlayStation 3 was a fat PlayStation 3, and it's suffered the yellow ring of death. Then I also have a PlayStation 3 Slim, but for some reason, I cannot find it because I moved to another house and I really cannot find where I put it. It was a white PlayStation 3 Slim, not the Super Slim, just a normal Slim. And that was still in good working condition. I wish I could find it. But instead, I borrowed a PlayStation 3 from a relative that is not using it. So I have one here right now. It's a PlayStation 3 Slim, but the black version. And just using it is driving me insane. It's so slow. It's so slow. It's so laggy. And browsing the PlayStation Store on a PS3 is a exercise in futility. The loading takes so long. Everything takes so long. And it's quite annoying to use. So I really would want them, please, PlayStation, figure it out. Figure it the hell out. On PS5, like, do it now. Put PlayStation 3 games natively on PS5. For those who don't know, the only way you can play PlayStation 3 games on another platform is through cloud streaming. And that's just not ideal, you know? I want to play them on an actual PS5 natively. I want to download them and install them and play it without fearing for my internet connection, the stability of my internet connection when I'm playing. So, please, implicit conversions, stop just dreaming about it and do it. Just announce it already. I know you're doing it, maybe. Maybe. Okay. Now we got a few more articles here. We actually have a lot more. There's so much to talk about. But let's take a little break here with the serious stuff, and let's just talk a little bit about January's PlayStation Plus essential games are now available. So for those listening, PlayStation Plus is this subscription on PSN or on PlayStation where every month, PlayStation Plus in general enables you to play online games on PlayStation that require PlayStation Plus. So yes, you need to pay to play online on PlayStation. But it also has the added benefit of giving you quote unquote free games every month that you can play for no additional cost outside of your subscription. And by downloading this game, by adding these games to your library, as long as you have your PlayStation Plus subscription up, you can play these games whenever you want. So, for January's PlayStation Plus essential games that are now available, first is Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League from WB, the absolutely awful, panned live service game from Rocksteady is now on PlayStation Plus, and I'm definitely not interested. I'm definitely not interested in playing this game, but I think it was announced recently that the sales of this game was actually pretty decent. So it's crazy how even an awful live service game can sell a lot just by the weight of its IP. Its IP here being Suicide Squad, you know? And not super interested in this. And I'm not going to download it. I'm just going to add it to my library, I guess, but I'm not really going to play it. I'm not super interested. Not when we have stuff like Marvel Rivals, which is so much better than this. Then the other game that's coming free for January's PlayStation Plus is Need for Speed Hot Pursuit Remastered, which is a remaster of the 2010 video game from Criterion Games on the PS3, Xbox 360, Wii, and others, published by EA. Again, not super interested in racing games in general. I don't really play them, but should be good. If I remember correctly, this is the Need for Speed where you're being chased by police, I think. No, I'm not really sure. The only Need for Speed I have played, I think, is Underground, if that's a thing, NFS Underground, but haven't really followed the Need for Speed franchise that closely. But should be interesting to some people. I think Hot Pursuit was is well loved by the Need for Speed fans. I think. Not sure. Can't really tell. But the third one that's coming to PlayStation Plus, which is a little bit more interesting, is Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe, which is an expanded reimagining of the 2013 The Stanley Parable, which is a first-person exploration game set in a office, which the best way I can describe this game, it's very quirky and it's very meta and it's very unique. It's very singular in the type of game that it is. It's essentially a walking simulator, but I don't know how to describe it. It's a crazy game. It has you. I don't know how to describe it, but I do know that Stanley Parable was one of the very best games that released when it was released in 2013. There was absolutely nothing like it. And I didn't realize that this is an expanded reimagining of that game. So I'm going to guess there's new content and stuff. I might go ahead and play this just to see what's new and refresh my memory on Stanley Parable. But definitely out of these 3 PlayStation Plus games, Stanley Parable is definitely the one that's more interesting. And if you haven't played it, I think you should. If I remember correctly, it was a really good game. At the very least, a very interesting game that'll expand your knowledge in video games, in quirky video games, you know? So, that's it for January's PlayStation Plus Essentials. Go look that up if you have a PlayStation 5 and want to play Suicide Squad and see how bad it is. I'm saying it's bad, but I haven't really played it, but when the universal opinion of it is just, nah, then it's probably bad. Okay. Now, next up in this list, in these articles, is a very interesting one because I have been very into this game recently. But this is an article from Push Square. Marvel Rivals' first month revenue shows Sony should continue to pursue live service on PS5, PC. So, outlet GameLook has used various methods to determine the sum of what Marvel Rivals made in its first month of service. And the estimation is $54.7 million US from Steam, $27.2 million from PlayStation, and $2.7 million from Xbox. Season 1 started in January 10, so it just started in January 10, so this is kind of impressive stuff, as said in the article. And GameLook suggests that Marvel Rivals could be on track to make an annual revenue of $1.36 billion over the year to come. For those who don't know, Marvel Rivals is a new live service game from NetEase that, leverages the Marvel IP and Marvel superheroes and turns it into a hero shooter very similar to something like Overwatch. And I have to say that this game is very, very fun and very engaging. And consider this. It made $136 million, it says here, and $36 million from that is from China alone. This is already a big number, and consider that technically it's not super big. I mean, for a Marvel IP, you expect more, in a way. But consider this is a live service, and actually playing the game, the live service monetization of it, the microtransactions in it are very, very mild. So, the microtransaction in this game, you already have all the characters unlocked. You don't need to buy any character. Then in Season 1, they added 2 new characters, and it looks like they're going to be adding a total of 4 new characters. And when they release all those 4, you don't need to buy a single one. And it's not being cheeky, for example, with Mobile Legends, where you don't actually buy a hero, but you can grind for coins and stuff to buy said hero with in-game currency without spending money. Or you can buy in-game currency to buy that hero that's in Mobile Legends, right? But for Marvel Rivals, every character is unlocked for you. Every new character that they're going to introduce is going to be unlocked for you. You don't need to pay a single dime to use all of these characters. And this game has an insane roster of like 30 plus characters already. And the only real monetization they have is skins and a battle pass. And that's it. And I'm actually pretty impressed at how non-grading, non-invasive the microtransactions and live service bit of Marvel Rivals is. It's really just skins. You don't get any advantage when it comes to your skills. You don't get any advantage in terms of winning games. It's just cosmetics and a battle pass, which also offers just cosmetics. And they could put many different ways to make money in this game, but they didn't. They could keep new characters locked, but they didn't. They could introduce some weird powers or something, team-ups, so to speak, that you need money to unlock, but they didn't. It's just skins. And they already made 136 million off skins. And the skins that are available right now are pretty good, but they aren't like super interesting. They aren't insane just yet. You can imagine the new skins coming out maybe a year from now or many months from now are going to be even better than what we have right now. And consider this also. I don't really feel the need to buy a skin. I'm looking at all these characters in Marvel Rivals and they all look really great even with their base default style. With the base default outfits and the default like poses and default MVP screens and everything. They look really cool. And I don't really feel the need to buy a skin to make them look cooler because they're already like 10 out of 10s in terms of the coolness scale. So it's going to be interesting to see how Marvel Rivals grows in the future. But NetEase has a big success on its hand. Another live service success that they have. Wait, what are NetEase games? NetEase games. Their portfolio consists of Marvel Rivals. Here, let's look at their portfolio. They have Marvel Rivals. They have Naraka Blade Point, which I think is also a very successful kind of battle royale type game with more swords and action gameplay. They also have Dead by Daylight Mobile. They have Identity V, which I think this is also a very popular live service mobile game. They have Once Human. They're also going to come out with Ananta. I think Ananta is their kind of Genshin, right? Ananta is their Genshin / GTA game that's going to come out. And it's going to be a gacha game. And this is going to be big as per usual, as just how these gacha games go. They're always going to be big. So, oh yeah, I think this is previously called Project Mugen. Yes, Ananta is previously called Project Mugen. A free-to-play role-playing video game developed by NetEase. Yes, and looks really good. It's an urban open-world RPG. So they're gonna be making money. They're gonna be making big money, and it'll be interesting to see how big Marvel Rivals becomes. And the way the article framed this is, they said it shows Sony should continue to pursue live service on PS5, PC, and I'm definitely one of those people who definitely think that Sony should pursue live service, because it's evident that a good live service game will make you money. And by making you money means you can put money in other projects with less risk. I mean, with less risk of that project being something that'll cost you way too much if it fails, right? And now a lot of people really don't care for Sony's live service initiative, and I get that, but also the thing that Sony needs to improve upon, it's not, I don't think it's bad to pursue live service. The thing Sony needs to improve upon is betting on the correct live service games. So they bet right when they bet on Helldiverse 2. They did not bet right when they bet on Concord. Now, whether they bet right when they are betting on fair games is going to be seen, has yet to be seen. Are they also betting right when they got Bungie, who's currently making Marathon? Are they betting right on that? We'll see. We'll just have to see. Now, look at this. They made so much money on PlayStation for Marvel Rivals live service. Half that of Steam, where live service games usually make a bigger splash on PC. Right? So hopefully Sony's newer live service initiatives will be better and correct. But Sony also has this nice position to bet on live service and bet on single player games and now bet on something like Astrobot, because they have so many studios, right? It's a typical thing where you don't put all your eggs in one basket. And that's what Sony should be doing. And I think that's what they're currently doing. So we'll see. We'll see if Sony's live service initiative will pan out for Fair Games, I think, is the next one that's coming up. Unfortunately for them, Concord was a big, big flop. And yeah. But Marvel Rivals, good job. Love that game. I think I want to talk about it more soon. Maybe in another episode. I'm currently in season 1. And they just introduced Mr. Fantastic, the big guy the very stretchy guy. And they also introduced Invisible Woman, who is a healer that goes invisible and makes people invisible as well. She's really cool as well, but she's very hard to use. My mains are Magic, Captain America, and Cloak and Dagger. I don't know who these characters are. I'm not a Marvel fan at all. But this game is single-handedly making me a Marvel fan. Okay. Now, next up is our next article comes from Push Square. Talking about PlayStation Studios. On Push Square, job listing confirms Sony has established an internal AAA studio in LA. So, it seems here that a job listing for a senior project producer confirmed an open secret that Sony has established at least one new AAA studio in LA. There are reportedly several groups that this could ultimately be, but the smart money seems to suggest that this is likely the team led by Jason Blundell, who left Deviation Games in 2022. So Jason Blundell is mostly popular for Call of Duty Black Ops work and the Call of Duty Black Ops zombie mode or something like that. And Jason Blundell, in 2021, SIE announced a partnership with Deviation Games for a new exclusive IP for the PS5. And this was supposed to be helmed by Jason Blundell and Dave Anthony. Then, for some reason, for an undisclosed reason, Blundell proceeded to leave Deviation in September 2022. And then Deviation was shut down in 2024 without a single game under its belt. And now the article here kind of implies that this new studio that Sony has secretly established in LA is going to be led by that same person, Jason Blundell. So just based on the pedigree of the person they're talking about, it's going to be probably a first-person shooter with some person with a pedigree that includes Call of Duty Black Ops and Call of Duty Zombies. So there really isn't much to talk about, but it seems like Sony has been establishing a lot of new studios within its PlayStation family recently. Aside from this, they also created a new team out of specific people from Bungie. They're kind of picking out talent from Bungie and creating a new studio from them, and now there's this one as well. So it looks like we're getting a bunch more new games from PlayStation Studios in the future. And exciting. However, the fact that this is a first-person shooter guy makes me feel like this is might be another live service game, but that has yet to be seen. Okay. Okay, now for the last piece of news, some lighter news, just a funny one that I saw here from Push Square is that here. Sony's immersive tech concept puts you in a room made of screens where you can smell your enemies. So, quote unquote, here, the quote says, the experience essentially comprises a box room where every surface is a high resolution crystal LED display surrounding you on all sides by the game world. This, combined with immersive audio, haptic feedback, atmospherics, and scent, aims to place you within an interactive environment more deeply than before. Yes, this means you'd be able to smell whatever game you're playing. So this is just, Sony as a hardware kind of company is known to make different new tech in this space. And they made a bunch of different new tech. For example, the PlayStation Moves, which is their own kind of light-based motion controller. Then they're also kind of leading the charge with VR. I mean, they're not leading it, but, in the console space, they're the only ones in actually doing it, PlayStation VR. And now it seems like they're experimenting with an immersive technology which involves you smelling stuff. And of course, what's funny here is that the game that they used to demonstrate this is The Last of Us. So I'm just imagining what The Last of Us smells like. First off, it'll probably smell like damp, like a damp tropical, foresty kind of smell. Smells like leaves and dew. But also, when you're next to a clicker and you're next to a dead body, it'll smell like a dead body, a rotting corpse, blood, rotting plants and stuff. That'll be funny. That's funny that's funny if you went to this immersive tech concept place and see. I think this is in CES, and then they strap you in VR. They put you in a room, and then the first thing you smell is like a rotting corpse. That's funny. But this kind of begged the question: what is a game that I want to smell? A game I definitely don't want to smell is Resident Evil 7. No way. No way you're going to put me in Resident Evil 7 and make me smell anything inside a Baker house. No. No way. Now, I'm trying to think of a game that I really want to smell. It has to be a pretty game. I'm thinking Final Fantasy 7. I think FF7 would be a great world to smell. Honestly. Imagine smelling Sephiroth. Or imagine smelling a Tifa. Right? Imagine being in Costa del Sol, smelling the beach. Imagine smelling Red 13. Right? Or you go to Nibelheim. You can smell Cloud's room. Or you can smell Genova. That'd be cool, honestly. What is another thing I want to smell? Another game I want to smell. Let's see. I want to smell Astrobot. Astrobot probably smells like iron and steel all the time because, Astrobot's a robot. So probably not. Uncharted would be cool too. It's just going to be very naturey. It feels like you're touching grass all the time. That'd be great. And also, I feel like Nathan Drake would smell good all the time as well. Aside from that, I don't think I really want to smell a bunch of PlayStation games. God of War is going to smell of blood. A bunch of blood all the time. And a bunch of guts and dead monsters. Probably not. PlayStation games. I feel like JRPGs would be a good thing to smell. JRPG games. Persona 5, right? What's the smell of a high school classroom in Persona 5? Or what else? Ni no Kuni. What's the smell of a Studio Ghibli world? That'd be great. Xenoblade Chronicles. Like a Dragon. What's the smell of Kamurocho? Or Hawaii? Depending on which game you're playing at. Fire Emblem Three Houses. What's the smell of the big chapel, the big cathedral? That'd be cool. Near Automata. What's the smell of 2B and 9S? Okay, we need this tech right now. We need it right now. So, while I doubt this is gonna, I think this tech would be good for, you know, those immersive experiences where you're probably in an arcade in VR or like in a big place. That'd be cool. But I don't know. I don't think this tech is gonna happen at home. Probably not. So yeah, that is it for that. Just a little funny little article. We have a few more. We have 4 more articles to go through before we go into my Game of the Year list of 2024. And this next one is a small one, but Monster Hunter Wilds just announced. Capcom has revealed a second Monster Hunter Wilds open beta will take place on PS5, Xbox Series X and S, and PC across 2 weekends in February, just prior to the game's full release. You shall be able to play from the 6th February 2025 to the 9th, and then again on 13th to the 16th. Crossplay will be active across all platforms, and PS Plus subscription won't be needed to play. Monster Hunter Wilds is going to be releasing next year. I mean, this year, right? And this is going to set the world on fire. Everybody and their mothers are going to be playing this game. It's going to be amazing. And I was able to play the first beta, the PlayStation Plus beta, and I have to say, Monster Hunter Wilds is such a good game. It'll be interesting to see how the PlayStation 5 beta fares this time around, because I played the PS5 beta last year and it was very, very rough. The performance mode was okay in terms of frame rate, but it looked like it looked very, very soft and very blurry. So I want to see how the PS5, non-pro PS5 handles this new version of Monster Hunter Wilds. I can't wait. My history in Monster Hunter Wilds is very recent only. I've only really gone into Monster Hunter World and Monster Hunter Rise. And while I did play World on release, I really wasn't caught immediately. But I remember, like, I played Monster Hunter World on release and I didn't really like it too much. It was very difficult for me, very slow and very methodical. And I was just being trampled around by big-ass monsters and not really getting any progress and not even killing these monsters because they were so difficult. But then the way I gained appreciation for Monster Hunter was when I finally started streaming it. When I streamed it like a few months later, that's when I realized that Monster Hunter in general is a community reliant type of game. Its lifeblood is its community. Because when I was playing the game, I was finally able to enjoy it when a bunch of people came into my chat and taught me how to play the damn game. Not really how to play as in controls and everything, but taught me how to approach playing a Monster Hunter game. Because these games are very methodical and very obtuse in a way. And I think Monster Hunter Rise streamlined the experience by a lot. I played Monster Hunter Rise on release and didn't really need help with understanding all the mechanics and everything. It was very streamlined. And then that's what I'm hoping for Monster Hunter Wilds, that it's going to be a big combination between World and Rise. World as in the realism and the impact and the amazing graphics and the big sprawling world and immersive world of it. And combine it with the streamlined nature and friendliness of Monster Hunter Rise. I think that'd be a really good combination. If they can pull that off, Monster Hunter Wilds is going to be an insane hit. I mean, even if not, this is going to be an insane hit anyway, right? This is Capcom's biggest thing. And I can't wait to play it. So Monster Hunter Wilds, I'm probably going to be playing this on stream on Karlobster on February. So look out for that. Can't wait. All right. So next few articles is... Ooh, this is an interesting one, actually. Here. Sony is betting big on global growth of anime. So recently, I think a few weeks ago, Sony bought 8% more shares in Kadokawa, making them the largest minority shareholder. I think that's the correct term, because it's not like they own 51% of Kadokawa, but they are, in terms of shareholders, they have the biggest share with 10% amongst the others. So the way I'm understanding it is the others have like 9%, 5%, 2%, and Sony has the most with 10%. So, following substantial investment into Kadokawa late last year, it's no real surprise to see Sony doubling down on the global growth of anime content. During its CES 2025 press conference, however, it put that ambition on stage. So, here they talk about announcing the new Ghost of Tsushima anime series, and they also revealed how all of its subsidiaries are pulling together to make the international release of Demon Slayer Kimetsu no Yaiba Infinity Castle a major worldwide theatrical moment. And Demon Slayer, one of the most popular, best-selling anime manga in Japan right now, especially. And one funny thing here is, toe curlingly, the company said anime is proving massively popular among Gen Z and Gen Alpha audiences. So that's funny. That's funny that anime is becoming very popular to the kids, which makes sense. But I just wanted to take a moment here to see how insane Kadokawa as an anime acquisition is. I'm gonna go to their My Anime list, to the anime that they have under their belt, and look at all this anime that they have. They have Kimi no Na wa, which is the Makoto Shinkai movie that was really popular amongst not just anime people but also normies, right? This anime, along with Attack on Titan, had people watching anime. I had normies watching anime because it looks so good. Then we got Konosuba, a really popular comedy anime. Then you got the Bunny Girl anime, very, very popular as well, Seishun Buta Yaro Bunny. They got Overlord, of course. They got Made in Abyss, Bungo Stray Dogs, Mushoku Tensei as well. Shield Hero, ReZero, Sword Art Online Alicization, Tenki no Ko, Yojo Senki, Oshi no Ko, No Game No Life, Steins Gate, 86, High School DxD, for old ones. Osama Ranking, more Sword Art Online, a lot of Sword Art Online, and so much more. So this is a very big acquisition in terms of anime, more than possibly they have Fate in here as well. More than its possible influence over From Software or Spike Chunsoft. Although Spike Chunsoft, I love Spike Chunsoft. I wonder if they'll have some influence over Spike Chunsoft. I don't know. But if they do, please, Danganronpa. Bring back Danganronpa. Or something new. Something new from the Danganronpa guy. Bring him back. So yeah. Just want to take a moment to talk about this. Pretty cool anime from Sony in the future. And Demon Slayer. I haven't caught up with Demon Slayer recently, though I do know, of course, Ufotable, insane when it comes to anime. So, can't wait. Now, we got our last two articles here. And one is... No, is it last two? No, actually, last one. No, last two. First off, second to the last one. Housemarque. Housemarque are the creators of Returnal and Resogun. I actually haven't played Returnal yet, though I would want to play it with a friend. I think they added a co-op mode. So Returnal is basically this third-person shooter that has in heavy bullet hell sensibilities to it. And apparently it has this live, die, repeat kind of pattern with its storytelling. So I can't wait to find somebody to play that with. If you're that somebody, play it with me. Like the whole campaign of it. Although it's more, I guess it's more fashioned like a roguelike instead of a typical like linear single player game. So that'd be cool. But also, aside from that, the game I really loved from Housemarque was Resogun. Resogun was a launch window or launch day, or basically a launch title from on PlayStation 4, which had you playing as a spaceship, and the level was fashioned more like a cylinder. Instead of like a big side-scrolling kind of thing where you're just on a flat plane and you're shooting things with your spaceship, it was kind of like a cylinder in the way Mario Galaxy had you going around a planet. So for Resogun, it was more a cylinder, like I said. And it was also very heavy when it comes to bullet hell. You were dodging a bunch of bullets and so many things and so many other ships, and it's really cool. From a gameplay standpoint, it was really, really fun. So, from this article, it says, Housemarque recruits PlatinumGames dev of 11 years as lead designer on next PS5 game. So we're finally seeing what the hell Housemarque is doing for its next game. Housemarque, interestingly, it was releasing games alongside the first Helldivers, Arrowhead. I really thought PlayStation would have acquired Arrowhead by now, in the same way they acquired Housemarque all those years ago. Because I feel like Housemarque and Arrowhead kind of occupy the same space, but a bit, not super same space, but if there's a Venn diagram, they somehow join in the middle, Housemarque and Arrowhead. So, but interestingly, Housemarque here said, it says here that, wait, here, where is it? Housemarque, the studio behind Resogun and Returnal, seem to be moving in a different direction for the next game, and if their recent hire is any indication of it, they have hired an ex-PlatinumGames developer as lead designer. PlatinumGames, for me, most popular because of Nier Replicant, and not Nier Replicant, Nier Automata, and also many, many other action games like Bayonetta. And wait, they had another game, right? PlatinumGames. They're very much known for their hack and slash action adventure type games. So yeah, they made Astral Chain as well. What else did they make? Now that I'm looking, let's see. They also made The Wonderful 101. They also made Vanquish, one of my favorite third-person shooters that we definitely need to come back. Vanquish. They made Metal Gear Rising Revengeance and Mad World. Wow. However, as many great games that they made, they also made Babylon's Fall, which was their live service flop with Square Enix, unfortunately. So yeah, PlatinumGames is very known for its like hack and slash action adventure games, which is very different from the typical Housemarque game. So it's going to be interesting to see what type of game they're going to come up with. So on his LinkedIn profile, Tinari lists designer credits on several games, including Grand Blue Fantasy Relink, Bayonetta, Origins, Cereza, and the Lost Demon, and the unreleased Scalebound. Scalebound, which was supposed to be a exclusive kind of action adventure hack and slash game from Xbox, with Shinji Mikami helming it. And unfortunately, it didn't release because, many things happen and things just don't pan out sometimes. So, he also states that he has a specialty in enemy and boss design. So it seems like a good match. Housemarque's expertise is similar to that of PlatinumGames, with an emphasis in fast-paced, fluid action gameplay and arcade tendencies. So finally, I feel like we are going to be finding out what Housemarque is cooking soon. I'm very interested to see, but in the meantime, I kind of really want to play Returnal first with a friend in co-op. Should be a good experience doing that. So we'll see. I wonder if they're going to go full hack and slash for the next one. It's going to be interesting. Is it going to be hack and slash plus, is it going to be a third person hack and slash character action game? Are they suddenly going to go straight into, well, Returnal was in many ways a AAA game. It wasn't, it wasn't as AAA as like a Final Fantasy VII Rebirth or something like that, or a Last of Us. So I wonder if Housemarque's next project is going to be a straight up AAA third person hack and slash action adventure game. That'll be very interesting to see. So Housemarque, keep cooking. Keep cooking. I'm excited. I'm excited to see what you're cooking. And now for our very last article. It's, again, from Push Square. Just put a note there. Naughty Dog sold to Sony to avoid being crushed by cost of game dev. So this is an interesting article that basically talked about the acquisition of Naughty Dog in 2001. So Naughty Dog didn't start as a PlayStation studio. They were an independent studio before 2001. And they were acquired by Sony in 2001 for an undisclosed sum. And Naughty Dog is today considered the crown jewel among PlayStation's first-party studio family. And in a LinkedIn post, co-founder Andrew Gavin reflected on the circumstances that led to the Why are we getting so many things from LinkedIn? I don't even use LinkedIn. I think I have a profile on LinkedIn, but I didn't really realize it's kind of like a social media thing and people post there. Huh, interesting. But yeah, the co-founder Andrew Gavin reflected on the circumstances that led to the consequential acquisition, which shows that the more things change, the more they stay the same. So here is what happened for Naughty Dog back in that time. So he cited that the spiraling cost of game development in the late 1990s and early 2000s, Gavin said that the principal reason that Naughty Dog was sold to Sony was due to a systemic issue in the AAA space, where developers almost never have the resources to fund their games, giving publishers enormous leverage. So back in the day, Crash Bandicoot cost $1.6 million to make, right? And then their next game, Jak and Daxter, cost $15 million, which is what? A 12 to 15 times increase in budget. Then by Jak 3, it cost them $50 million to make Jak 3. So you can see, from Crash Bandicoot to Jak 3, you go from $1.6 million to $50 million. And this is a very interesting thing right now because we also have this big bubble when it comes to development budgets in 2025 and 2024. Because now Naughty Dog, the Naughty Dog co-founder says a big budget game will easily run you $300, $400 to $500 million to make games. And this is a weird thing that Naughty Dog really is bumping into. Is that their constant need, the constant pressure, I guess, because they are like Sony's premier studio. The constant pressure to make something better and better and better every time is ballooning these budgets to insane levels. So he's talking about $300, $400, $500 million. I'm not going to be surprised that they're probably spending this much money on Intergalactic, the Heretic Prophet. And that's why he's talking about this number right here, which is insanely high for a game. And what's crazy is, how are you going to make the money back? Are there really enough gamers out there to make your money back on a $500 million project for a game that you only play once? For a game that doesn't have microtransactions or live service things that can last you 10 years of people going back and buying things in the game? It's weird. It's a weird predicament that Naughty Dog is in, and it's kind of funny how, history repeats itself. Because the reason Gavin said that they sold themselves to Sony is because they needed money to make bigger and bigger games. And Sony was willing to give them that kind of money to make bigger games. And that's why they are where they are right now. From Crash Bandicoot, they're now making Intergalactic, the Heretic Prophet. That's a big glow up. And that's because they were given the freedom and the budget to go bigger and bigger and higher. But this is a big bubble that's ready to burst, right? Especially for a non-live service game. This is why live service is very, very desirable for Sony. Remember the number from Marvel Rivals just a few hours ago that we were talking about it. They made $136 million in the first month. Who knows how much you're going to get in the next month? Then next month. Then next month. Then for the next 10 years. Right? The article from the Marvel Rivals one said they're going to make $1.36 billion in revenue, I think, by the end of the year. And if the game costs, $100 million to make, then you've made so much money over your $100 million, right? But that's because it's a live service. But if you're betting so much on a game, a single player game, that's probably not going to get big updates in the future that'll require you to go back and pay for like a battle pass, pay for a new skin for the main character. Nothing really like that. It's going to be hard to make back the money. Fortunately, they're Naughty Dog. Fortunately, they have a big pedigree in Last of Us and Uncharted. But still, this is gonna be insane if Intergalactic costs like $500 million to make. Are there gonna be enough gamers to pay to buy it to make $500 million back? We shall see. And that's why, and this is why the phenomenon of publishers increasing the price of games is a thing, right? Because if the population of gamers isn't increasing by a lot, then the only way you can make back your money is to increase the price of the game. And from what we know, I know that GTA 6 is in this weird situation where I think there are rumors that GTA 6 is costing like $1 billion or something to that effect. To that number, to that tune, $1 billion. Now, the good thing about GTA 6 is that it has a GTA Online segment, which they can keep making money on forever. So I wonder how this is going to work out for these single player games that Sony's going to pump out in the future. Think of Last of Us 4. Last of Us 3. I mean, we're still thinking of Last of Us 3, but think of Last of Us 4. How much money is going to be put into that? A PlayStation 6, end of PlayStation 6 life cycle, Last of Us 4. How much is that going to cost? It's going to be insane. So yeah, that's what's plaguing the industry right now. But it's cool to see that, you start from humble beginnings. Crash Bandicoot. And now they're making Intergalactic, the Heretic Prophet. Which is, interestingly, their return to sci-fi. After their last sci-fi was Jak and Daxter. So they do have a pedigree in sci-fi. Just not the same way that Intergalactic is. But still, interesting. So Naughty Dog, good luck. I can't wait for Intergalactic to come out. And that's it for the news. We went through so many topics today. Wow, that's a lot. It's a lot of news. But since this is a bi-weekly podcast, we can, I can make sure that there are things to discuss. There are probably going to be weeks where there really isn't going to be a lot to discuss, and that's okay. But when there is a lot to discuss, I'm going to just make sure to just include all of it. There's no time limit to this podcast. We're just going to keep recording and recording until we're done. And so if you have a commute 3 hours away, you can listen to this for 3 hours and you're good to go. Okay, But that's it for the news segment. And now we're going to go to the last segment of the podcast, which is my game of the year picks for 2024. So for this list of my games that I really like from 2024, I was looking at my list of games that I played in the last year, and I realized that I really haven't played a lot. I've played a lot of games. I spent a lot of hours on video games in the last year, but I realized I've been spending so many hours on games that weren't released in 2024, that were released before 2024. And there are also games that I played that are from 2024 that I did not finish yet, and I'm still playing right now in 2025. And so my game of the year list has 2 segments here. And first is the honorable mentions, which are basically games that would have made my list of game of the year if I just finished them. These are games that I played enough of that I know that they're going to make my list, but I have not finished them. So I can't really say and conclude well where they are going to be if they were part of my game of the year list. All right. And for these honorable mentions, I have 4 games here that are pretty cool. And for my game of the year list, I really don't have enough to make a list of 10. I only have enough to make a list of 5. Funny enough. So I have 5. I have my top 5 game of the year 2024, and I also have 4 honorable mentions that I can talk about. So for honorable mentions, first off is Silent Hill 2. Now, Silent Hill 2, I don't really have a history with Silent Hill as much as I have a history with Resident Evil. All I really know about Silent Hill from the old games on the PlayStation 1? Or PlayStation 2? PlayStation 2. Is that you just had this guy going through a very foggy town, and that's it. There were dogs, and I had I had a weapon that I can fight them with, and I couldn't find my way because of all the fog, and it was scary, but that was like literally the only Silent Hill anything that I've ever played. You know, my only Silent Hill experience with it. Experience with Silent Hill, I mean. And so Silent Hill 2 Remake was released in 2024, and I played it, but I haven't finished it yet. I think I'm maybe 16 to 20 hours into it, 16 hours. When I play games, I take really long to play because I check out every single thing. I also look at every nook and cranny, every little detail, read every lore bit that I can find. So it's taken me pretty long to finish this game that I definitely haven't finished yet. But Silent Hill 2, the great thing I can say about it is that the atmosphere is so thick. Atmosphere is so thick I can taste it. That's a Strangers of Paradise reference. Literally, the fog is so thick. But the game is really, I was super surprised at how good this game is. I really did not believe in Bloober Team. I was one of those that were very skeptical about Bloober Team just because of what I know about their game, The Medium. Because I do know that The Medium was a very big thing that Xbox was pushing for their console. And it did seem like it was going to be their own Silent Hill. Because I think The Medium had 2 worlds as well. They had the normal world and the upside down world or something like that. And so it was kind of like their Silent Hill. Then that game released to, the reviews weren't pretty good. Weren't really good. So I was like, Bloober Team. Okay, whatever. So, and then suddenly they got the green light to make Silent Hill 2. And when I heard that, I was like, really? What? Really? The guys who made The Medium, you're going to trust to make Silent Hill? Because in my mind, Konami was trying to revive Silent Hill 2, but it was reviving Silent Hill 2 in the wake of Resident Evil remakes being incredible, right? Because Capcom has been doing amazingly with the Resident Evil remakes. Like, they're so good with the remakes that it's kind of hard to suddenly show up and compete with Resident Evil. Like, Resident Evil already has like the zeitgeist when it comes to survival horror, AAA survival horror. And then suddenly Silent Hill is going to come back for the first time in many, many years. And it needs to compete with Resident Evil. How is that going to happen? And then I was so surprised that, yes, we're going Bloober Team to do this. I'm like, you could get another team which has a better... We could get a better team, you know? But I was pleasantly surprised. The game is surprisingly very engaging. I mean, the gameplay is very engaging. It's really very simple if you think about it. It's just you with a bat and a gun, and then you approach enemies, and then you press the melee button, and you basically get magneted toward the enemy while you hit them, and then they hit you back, and all you need to do is dodge and hit them back again. Dodge, hit back, dodge, hit back. But it's actually very engaging, and it felt really visceral and very nice to get your hits on the enemy. The guns also feel good, if a bit less effective than just bonking enemies in the head. And the atmosphere is crazy. Like I said, the atmosphere is so thick you can taste it. And the performances in that game are also like AAA, like really amazing performances from the actors, from James, the voice acting, not just the voice acting, but the actual performances with a facial mocap, and the actual movement of the characters are really good. My only complaint about it is it feels a bit long. It just feels too long in the tooth. The dungeons feel very, very long. And I know they're already streamlined compared to the original game. Probably. I don't really have experience with the original game. But I feel like I'm just going through 5 hours of the same dungeon. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm getting so tired. And I get very stressed at the end. I need to rest after. And that's one of the reasons why I haven't gone back to it. Because the dungeons can become very long and very tiring and very dark. And sometimes I feel like puking because it's very dark and stuff like that. But yeah, honorable mention to Silent Hill 2. And my next honorable mention is Until Then. Until Then is a game made by Filipino developers, which is a visual novel, but it uses a more pixel art type of style. And I like this because it's very authentic. Like, it's very culturally authentic. It presents a Philippines in a way that is reeling from this sort of kind of cataclysmic event that is happening. But there's a cataclysmic event happening in the background, but you're instead playing a student that is going through his daily student problems as a student, right? But there's like an undertone of a big global event happening in the background. And I haven't finished this. Maybe I'm 50% to 60% in it already. But this game surprised me so much. Its writing was really good and very authentic and very true to... I mean, it was in English, but it was very true to like the actual experience of being in the Philippines, right? The art direction, the sound design. There was a scene there where it was just a character looking at his phone on his bed, but you can hear the noise outside. You can hear tricycles driving by. You can hear karaoke happening in the background as well. You can hear the busy streets because it's always, especially if you live in the city here, it's always noisy. There's always some sort of car driving. There's always a rooster cackling or something like that. And it's very authentic. And I really appreciated that. And The game also looks really good. It's one of the best looking pixel art type of games I've ever seen. And the animations of the sprites is also very, very detailed for a pixel art game. So I have to commend the developers Until Then because I really want to finish it. I just need to find time to finish it. Actually, I think I deleted my save file. I think my save file got accidentally deleted because I was playing on Steam on PC. Then when I got my Steam Deck, I booted the game up on my Steam Deck because I wanted to do this on a Steam Deck instead. It would be a perfect Steam Deck game. However, when I booted it up on the Steam Deck, the game started a new file and then overwrote my cloud save on Steam. So I have to start over from the beginning. And one of the things I was surprised about is this game isn't short. This game isn't like 2 to 3 hours long. This game is like 15 hours long or something like that. It's very beefy. So I think I owe it to myself to finish it. I think I'm going to finish it this year. Like this beginning of the year. Yeah, I'll get to it. Should be easy enough. It's mostly a visual novel, but still, So shout out to Until Then. Great game. Next game in my honorable mentions is Astrobot. It's Astrobot. This game from Team Asobi, a PlayStation studio, and it's a 3D platformer, and it's very reminiscent of, a Nintendo platformer, a typical Nintendo kind of platformer, and it won Game of the Year at the Game Awards. It won many, many awards. I think it has like 100 Game of the Year awards or something like that from different publications. And it's easy to say why, if I finish this would have been in my Game of the Year list. Probably very up high, probably number 2. But this game is very fun, very quirky, and just reminds me of the fun in video games. That's what it really feels like. When I play this game, I always have a big smile on my face. I keep screaming. I'm like, oh my God, that's so cute. I keep doing that. And then I find all the PlayStation reference Astrobots out there, and you get reminded of the time you spent with these games, like Ape Escape, with God of War, with Uncharted, and these other games also, Devil May Cry, Street Fighter. These are games that are not necessarily PlayStation exclusive, but are iconic to the PlayStation iconography. And I really appreciate that about this game, and just reminds me about why I like PlayStation. And me liking PlayStation is basically my gateway to liking video games in general. So I'm really appreciative about that for Astrobot, and I can't wait to finish it. I think I finished 2 bosses already. I need to finish 3 more, I think. But I'm already confident this is going to be one of my best games from 2024. Definitely. Then the last game on my honorable mentions is Metaphor ReFantazio. Like, I'm a big Persona fan, and this game is it's so long. It's a very, very long game, and I know for a fact that this was released like at the tail end of 2024, that there was no way I was going to be able to finish it within 2024, unfortunately. But as a Persona and SMT enjoyer, everything in this game, I like. The combat system, the story, the characters are all good. The art style, of course, the UI, everything that you expect from a great Persona game however, this time around, you got mature characters, actual adults this time around, and I really appreciate that, and it gives a different flavor to Persona. And also the story is definitely more mature as well. And interestingly, it uses the book that the protagonist has is a copy of an actual book in our world, in the real world, which is Utopia by Thomas More. And I've been reading it here and there just to see if I can glean any deeper meaning in the events that unfold in Metaphor ReFantazio. I don't know if I'm going to get any deeper appreciation of the game by doing that, but I think it should be a good thing to do to gain more appreciation of Metaphor, and maybe unveil its deeper secrets. It's more of its motivations and the things that make the story tick. I want to see what that's up. What's up with that? So Metaphor Refantasio, the only thing that I can say about it... Oh, wait. Metaphor Refantasio also doesn't feature persona anymore, like different personas. It features a job system. And it's been a while since I played a JRPG with a job system. And welcome back. It's a welcome welcome return to form for job systems. And we really need more of those in new JRPGs. Job systems. Not just different weapons, but give me different jobs with different skills that I can mix and match and just play around with per character. The cast of characters, I just got this kind of bat character. God, he's so cool. Everybody's so cool in this game. Even the side characters, even the social links, they're all great. And I can't wait to finish this game and see more of the story. And now we go to my Game of the Year list of 2024. Now, these aren't going to be... I'm not going to be talking about them as if they're full reviews. I just want to go through them and have you see the games I most enjoyed from 2024. And now, as you see that these games that I already mentioned are the big ones: Astrobot, Metaphor Refantasio, Silent Hill 2. So that basically says that my list for Game of the Year 2024 is it might be very different from other podcasts or other websites that you frequent. Because these are going to be mostly small games. And number 5 is, funny enough, I don't know if you've ever heard about this game. Number 5 is Kinky Spiritual Affairs Bureau. What? Kinky what? Yeah, Kinky Spiritual Affairs Bureau. So this game was developed by, I think, just one person. Let me just check. Let me check real quick. It was developed by Noto Muteki. That's his name, Noto Muteki. So he's just one person, and he's a very big military nut. And this game is a blend of Metal Gear Solid and anime. And anime girls and horror, Japanese horror. So I don't think there's a better way to describe this game except that. So you play as a anime girl who goes to a village that they say is haunted by ghosts. And the first village that you go to is haunted by Sadako. Literally, Sadako from the TV, from the Grudge or something like that, if I remember correctly. And immediately you see the intentions of this game. For the first part of the game, it feels like Silent Hill. You're just going through a town, a haunted town. It's very dark, and then suddenly just ghosts show up. Then suddenly a few ghosts show up to attack you, and then the main character busts out a freaking rifle, like an assault rifle, and then you mow them down with an assault rifle, and then the intentions of the game is bared fully in front of you. It's gonna be this weird, quirky, comedy type anime horror game, anime horror military game, where you're basically shooting zombies. Shooting ghosts. And, you're fighting people like Sadako, you're fighting Hanako from the toilet. And then as it goes along, the story opens up into a very big, military thing where you... I don't know how best to explain it, but it really feels like Metal Gear Solid with anime girls and ghosts. It's very cinematic and honestly very underrated. I don't think a lot of people know this game. This game is very popular, at least in the VTuber space, but in general, there should be more attention paid to this game because this is a very one-of-a-kind game with a well-written story and very more cinematic than many of AAA games that are released today. So that's my number 5. Kinky Spiritual Affairs Bureau. And for number 4 is Marvel Rivals. Marvel Rivals is one of the games that makes me forget that I like JRPGs. I've been so lost in the sauce with this game that I've been playing it for many, many hours. And this is the most I've ever been into a live service competitive shooter game. I am so invested in this. I'm so invested in the growth of this game, the characters, the gameplay, the season, the ranked mode and its season. And I really want to go up in rank and actually see what the higher ranks feel like. And I've been learning so many different characters that it feels fresh every time I play. And it has a very non-invasive monetization system like I talked earlier. And it released with 30 plus characters already. Everyone has a pleasing character design. The gameplay is fast and fluid and doesn't feel like it doesn't feel super sweaty. It feels like anyone can pick up this game and just throw skills in a crowd of enemies and kill somebody. It's just really good all around, and I really appreciate that from this game. That it's so accessible that even me, who hates live service competitive shooters, can enjoy it and take a lot of joy out of it, and even consider going down the competitive route and ranking up, even if my aim is bad, and feel like I can rank up by learning these characters. So, Marvel Rivals, don't sleep on it if you like your live service games. It's really good, and it's just going to become bigger and bigger as they add more characters. They just added 2 characters. They're going to add 2 more. And these new characters are really fun to use. So that's Marvel Rivals for my number 4. Then my number 3 is Pentiment. Pentiment is made by Obsidian, which is an Xbox studio. And it's this very quirky, small game. Obsidian is known for Fallout New Vegas. They're known for now Avowed, The Outer Worlds. And, that's those types of games. And then it's interesting how amidst those types of games, they were able to make Pentiment. Now, Pentiment is this small game that has a very interesting art style, which is reminiscent of those kind of medieval paintings. I don't know which era these paintings are from, but it's basically the old types of paintings. But I just realized this is in a 2024 game. What the hell? Oh, this is a 2024 game because it released on PlayStation 5. Yes. It released in PlayStation 5 in 2024. But it initially released in 2022. But I'm still including it for this year because I played it on PS5. I waited for it to come on PS5. But the little thing about Pentiment is it's a narrative adventure role-playing game played from a 2D perspective. And it's set in the 16th century. And just from a little blurb here from Wikipedia. So the player takes control of Andres Mahler, a journeyman artist from Nuremberg who becomes embroiled in a series of murder mysteries in Upper Bavaria. The story is set in the fictional Alpine town of Tassing and the nearby Benedictine Kiersau Abbey during the 16th century and takes place over the course of 25 years. This is such an interesting game because this is one of the best written games I've ever played. It's so immersive, even if it's a 2D game with an art style that is with an art style that's reminiscent of the era of the 16th century. It's so immersive in the way that the text is all in, the font that they use are very old medieval as well. The sound design is so immersive. You can hear for example, you're in a farm, you just hear the wind, just hear the wind just blow in. You hear the animals doing their sounds and stuff like that. And for example, a guy is chopping wood in the distance. You can just hear him chopping the wood over and over. And it's just very immersive. And the story is also one of the best stories in a video game I've ever played. And the thing that really hooked me is that, as said here, it takes place over 25 years. And it's basically like 4 different arcs with time skips in between. And it starts with a murder mystery. And then after that happens, there's a murder mystery again, like after the time skip, and another one after that, and they're all somehow all connected. And the way everything gets unraveled to you is really, really compelling. And I was playing this and I was like, oh my God, how was this game greenlit at all? So yeah, it's a very unique game that I think it's hard for me to recommend this game because it's really not gonna be for everyone. But if you really want to immerse yourself in kind of the 16th century story and everything that's part of that, then this is the game for you. Pentiment by Obsidian. It's really good. And now I go to my top 2. My top 2 game for this year is Mouthwashing. Mouthwashing, a triumph in literally everything that it tries to do. It's a triumph in story, a triumph in storytelling and writing, in art direction, graphics, sound design, a sound direction, and overall one of the best indie games I've ever played. Maybe the best story in an indie game that I've ever played. So it basically follows the story of a crew on a spaceship that kind of had an accident and you're kind of stuck in space in a way. And that's the whole premise. So it's just this group of people, I think there are 5 of you that are stuck in space and are trying to come to grips with what's happening and trying to come to grips with the other people in your crew and how each one interacts with each other. And I don't really want to spoil any of the story. It's hard to talk about this game without saying plot points and stuff like that. So I really don't want to spoil anyone on this game. But definitely, all I can say about it is that it's, for an indie game that lasts like 2 to 3 hours, this is the best 2 to 3 hours that you can spend on a game. That's all I have to say about Mouthwashing. Why is it called Mouthwashing? You'll know when you play the game. And it has that upgraded PlayStation 1 type of style graphics, which is very pleasing to the eye, honestly. And trust me. If you're just looking for a 2 to 3 hour game, just buy it. Just buy Mouthwashing. Everybody will get something out of it. Everybody will get multiple layers of things out of it. And the writing is so good. If you just pay attention and immerse yourself in it, you will get a very fantastic experience out of it. So go check it out. Mouthwashing is my second game. Second to the last game. I mean, second top 2 game in 2024. And my top 1 is easy. Very easy to figure out my top 1. Well, my top 1 is Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Now, it's easy to see. Rebirth is also a triumph in AAA games. This is... I know Skull and Bones is very memed on for being a quadruple A game, but Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is the closest we can get to a quadruple A game. This game is a miracle. It's a miracle that this game is as good as it is, considering its origins. You know, Final Fantasy VII, the legendary Final Fantasy VII on PlayStation 1, and they were able to remake this part of the story in painstaking detail in every little thing, and they also were able to expand the stories of the characters by a lot, expand the world as well, and fill it with a bunch of mini games and a bunch of activities and so many things, so many quests and so many side quests and so much more characterization than in the original game. and manages to tie it in with the original one in PlayStation 1 in this big story that connects everything in the compilation. And I really don't want to spoil again. Don't want to spoil the story, but it's really a miracle that this game exists and is as good as it is. Aside from the graphics, I played this on PlayStation 5 and I had no problems with the graphics. I know the PS5 Pro is an upgrade when it comes to graphics. I know there's a PC version that's going to come out soon, but I had a fun time with a PS5 version, and I think I could see the flaws in the graphics. It was very blurry as well in some way, but it didn't even matter because the game was so good. The gameplay was also really fun, and it didn't. I wouldn't say it allowed for a lot of self-expression. For example, like Final Fantasy 16, but it allowed enough of creativity for you to tackle your enemies. And the gameplay system is still as good as ever with its kind of hybrid, a menu-based and action real-time gameplay. And the mini games are all really fun and all high quality. The story, of course, really good. The graphics, but the music is definitely the best thing about this game. The music is insane. The orchestral versions of the Final Fantasy VII tracks that expanded, evolved. It's so good. And I'm just super happy to be able to live in a timeline where we get this big Final Fantasy VII remake trilogy, which I think is never going to happen again. This is the only time it's ever going to happen for Final Fantasy VII. There's no other Final Fantasy that I think Square Enix is going to give this treatment for. And I think we should really appreciate it for its existence. And so that's why Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is the most important game to me this year, and is also the best game that I played this year by a lot. It's just, there's no other game of the year for me. Even if I finish Metaphor, I feel like my game of the year will still be FF7 Rebirth. And I can't wait for the final installment in FF7 and how they're going to tie everything together and how they're going to expand the gameplay and the world. And God, I can't wait. So that is it for my game of the year list of 2024. And that is also it for the first episode of, what was the name of the podcast again? Triangle to Win. I'm still getting used to that. Oh, wow. I can't believe I just yapped for 3 hours straight. Wow. And I wasn't even talking to chat or anything. I just yapped straight, and this was fun. This was fun. I was just able to share all my thoughts whenever, how much of my thoughts I wanted to share. Everything. Wow. It's fun. Okay. But I think that is it for me. I'm going to go say goodbye now. It's currently 12:40 a.m. where I am during this recording. I need to record this maybe a little bit earlier in the future. I need to schedule it better, so maybe I'm less tired and more energetic. I was getting a bit low energy at the end there, but as we keep doing this bi-weekly, hopefully I do get better at doing this. But I hope you enjoyed the very first episode of Triangle to Win. For the next episodes, we're going to be focusing on the news, and also going to be focusing on a game that I'm playing that I want to play. And I'm going to be toying with the idea of entertaining some questions from the audience as well, because that's the thing I want to do. Maybe we can answer some questions about video games during the podcast. And one thing I'm also toying with, the idea of doing spoiler cast podcasts of a game I finish. For example, if I finish Metaphor ReFantagio, I just want a podcast episode, maybe exclusive one for Patreon, where I can just talk about it at length and what I liked about it. So yeah, I'm gonna experiment with that. Hopefully I can get someone to co-host this with me, but even if not, then it's fine. Maybe I can get a guest here here and there, but we'll see. We'll see. But yes, that is it for Triangle to Win. If you like the podcast, please subscribe to the YouTube. If you want to support me even more, you can go over to the Patreon, patreon.com/triangle to win. There are multiple tiers for you. The $1 tier is a support tier if you just want to support what I do and maybe gain access in the future to exclusive episodes when I finally get around to doing those, if I have the time to do those. And then the $5 tier is just for you get access to the podcast 3 days early. And you also get access to an ad-free version, ad-free audio version. I presume I'm going to be able to do that. I still need to figure out Patreon itself. Like, how am I even going to upload this on Patreon? We'll figure it out. But this is what the first episode is for, to figure all of this out. But yes. And that is it for me. You guys take care. And goodbye.